Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast, episode 184, our top one season wonders of all time. I'm Nick. We got Harrison. How are we doing tonight, Harrison?
I'm awesome. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah to everybody. How we doing, Nick?
Doing pretty good. Kind of glad the Christmas season's behind us, but that's all right. But see, you're still celebrating back there behind you.
I'm letting it fade away, but I'll tell you, with kids, Christmas is it's a lot of freaking work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm with you. I love it, but I'm not upset that it's over.
Yep. The same. But all right. Before we get going, make sure you follow and like us on Facebook. You can follow on Instagram. You can also follow on Rumble. You can subscribe on YouTube, or you can listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We appreciate the support wherever it comes from.
Absolutely. And speaking of support, you can find these links on our Facebook page to Dick's Sporting Goods, MLB Shop, or Lids. If you're going to buy products from these locations, go ahead and buy online through our links. Every little thing that you buy, or big thing you buy on these websites, comes back, gives us a nice little kickback to help support our podcast. So if you're going to buy from these three companies, go ahead and click our link and buy it through us with no extra cost to you. Just supports us a little bit more.
Yeah, if you're going to buy it anyways, we'd appreciate it if you consider buying it through our link. It helps the show, helps us continue to bring out this great content, keep things going. And it's a great way for these brands to support the show and sponsor the show, and a great way for our community to show some support without actually having to spend anything to do it. So we appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, we are going to start with recapping the free agents that have signed and the remaining free agents. So let's start with a big one. This came out of left field for me. I am a D-backs fan. I've been following them pretty closely the last 2 or 3 years. I did not see this coming. The D-backs were a silent partner in this whole offseason for Corbin Burnes. I didn't hear their name come up once. Did you?
No, I mean they were very quietly, kind of exploring options, but there was no indication that they were in this market.
No. So Corbin Burnes to the D-backs, 6 years, $210 million. They say the reason is, one of the big reasons was he lives in Scottsdale, Arizona. So it's kind of like a going home signing for him. But this rotation could be no joke if you get a good Jordan Montgomery back, even if you get a 500 Eddie Rodriguez. This is a rotation, and if Merrill Kelly's healthy, that's another big one. But Corbin Burnes, Zach Gallen,
just keep laying out the ifs there, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, Merrill Kelly got hurt in the middle of last year, so that's a big one. But with Burnes and Gallen as your 1-2,
that's a pretty nasty 1-2 punch to get. I mean, in a 5-game series, do you want to start games 1 and 2 against Burnes and Gallen? I don't.
No. And then Merrill Kelly, Brandon Pfaadt, this kid. If you haven't seen this kid pitch yet, he's up and coming. He's good. He's got some good stuff. And then Jordan Montgomery and Eddie Rodriguez, to me, are question marks. We don't know what we're going to get out of Montgomery or Rodriguez for that matter. But I'm taking this rotation for sure.
Oh, yeah. And I think I mentioned to you, too. I think what's really, really cool about this is you look at that rotation. You've got, Corbin Burnes is a lock. Gallen's a lock. Kelly, when healthy's a lock. Pfaadt's a lock. And now you got Erod and Montgomery. And you can kind of let those guys go into spring training and fight for the spot. And if something comes up, you could always trade one of them off for a position of need. Corbin Burnes is one of the probably 3 or 4 best pitchers in baseball. I mean, he's an ace. Yeah. But now you've also got flexibility by being able to make a move if you need to, and let your starting rotation actually battle for the spots. You've got 6 starters for 5 slots. They're all they're all good.
Yeah.
And if Jordan Montgomery returns to form, you can go Burnes, Gallen, and a good Montgomery, and a Merrill Kelly hanging out behind them. I mean, I'll take that.
Yeah, I am optimistic about Montgomery just because of everything he dealt with last offseason, signing late, that the whole Scott Boras being out of touch with the market last offseason. I think you do get a different Jordan Montgomery. He's just too good to be that bad, if that makes sense.
Well, let's put it this way: he can't pitch any worse than he did last year. He can only get better.
Facts.
He was terrible last year.
Yeah.
And
So,
it sounds like, and we can get into the details of the contract here in a second, but it sounds like the Arizona connection may have been actually initiated by Corbin Burns.
yes.
If I'm reading between the lines, it sounds like he approached them. He's got 2 very young twin babies, and he wanted to be home. And it sounds like he may have approached them to say, look, I've got other offers out there. Like, what could you guys do? Like, is there a chance to make this work?
Yeah.
And the deal is interesting. It's a 6-year, $210 million deal. The first 2 years are at 20 million. The next 4 are at 25 million. There's an opt out after year 2. So obviously the incentive to not opt out is the higher salary in the following 4 years. And they deferred 60 million to be paid out 10 million a year starting in 2031. So it's actually a team friendly contract. When you look at it, he's going to take less money the next 2 years, defer a big chunk of it. 10 million per year gets taken off the top and deferred.
Yeah.
And then he can opt out or stick around for a raise. It's a shockingly team friendly deal for a guy that we thought was going to be at $40 million a year.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it doesn't hurt that he's going to a good team as well, like a fun.
No, if this was the White
exciting
Sox,
team
yeah,
too.
it's probably a different story, but
Yeah.
it definitely sounds like this is a deal where Burns was kind of like, I want to be there. How do we make it happen?
Yeah. Do what you can to get me here.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody saw this coming, because I don't even think the D-backs saw it coming. I think that this was initiated by Burns' side, and the D-backs were like, well, hell yeah, we'll talk.
Right. As you should. I mean,
well, yeah, for sure. I mean, for sure.
Wait, one of the best pitchers in the league want to come to our team? Like, okay, what gets it done? So
yeah, I mean, and it's $35 million a year. He's making just a hair more than Garrett Cole, so it's not like it's chump change.
right.
But the heavy deferrals knock down that cost. And the 2-year opt out with a raise, it's a good deal. Good deal for the D-backs especially. And if Burns stays all 6 years, it's a good deal for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which, if you want to be home, why wouldn't you stay all 6?
Right. All right. Teoscar Hernandez stays with the Dodgers 3 years, $66 million, $15 million club option in 2028. And here we go. So I mean, the D-backs, smartly deferred some of Burns. Here we go with another deferral for the Dodgers, $23 million signing bonus, which doesn't hit the cap, obviously. Yep. And then another $23 million deferred. So they're getting Teoscar for, fairly cheap when it comes to the cap. So,
I mean, luxury tax wise, he doesn't count very much.
Yeah. Sounded like he had, bigger offers in other places, but he wanted to stay with the Dodgers. And I mean, like, why wouldn't you? You just won a World Series. You're surrounded by 4 or 5 future Hall of Famers. I mean, good for him. Good for the Dodgers, I guess. And he played really well for them. So I would want to stay where I've performed for sure.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and Jay, 3 years, 2028. It's scary that we're talking about 2028 being not that far away.
Yeah.
So my understanding is the other team really in the mix on Teoscar aggressively was the Mets, but they wouldn't give him the 3rd year. And it sounds like what prompted the Dodgers to give him the 3rd year was, hey, we'll give you the 3rd year to get you back here, but we're going to defer that year. To which I think Teoscar basically said, done, like, sign me up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that fixed, like, we were kind of talking about the outfield hole there that they had, like, what were they going to do? But this pretty much cements it. Dodgers had a plan. They knew that Teoscar was going to come back to them at some point. So,
well, good. And I think, you coming off a World Series championship, I think you kind of expect everybody to want to come back and run it back.
Yeah.
Teoscar had a career year there. I mean, he fit in perfectly with that lineup. He balances them out. He fits in great personality wise. And I would also note $15 million club option in 2028. So, like, if he's playing well, they can lock him up at a discount and he can't stop him. It's another kind of team friendly deal here.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I think he wanted to be there. They're gonna pay him what he's worth. The Mets were offering more per year, but they wouldn't go to the 3rd year. So good for him.
Yep. All right. Glaber Torres signs with the Tigers, 1 year, $15 million. And this is an interesting one. Includes 500,000 assignment bonus if they trade him mid-season. So if he gets traded, he just gets a $500,000 in his pocket. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, they're basically
But
buying the right to trade him, which it's interesting because this happens. This is in a lot of I shouldn't say a lot of contracts. It's in many contracts. It's not usually shared or discussed.
right.
Basically the player says, well, you can trade me, but you're going to pay me to go somewhere else. But good for him. I mean, it's a 1 year deal. I think that he looks at it as, well, geez, if this team isn't as good as thought and they fall out of contention, like if I got to move, they're paying me to do so.
Yeah. The Tigers came out and said they'll move Colt Keith to first base and will compete with Spencer Torkelson for the job. Because, I mean, Torkelson came up, made a big impact early, and then has just kind of been there. He's been okay. Colt Keith is up and coming, and they're high on him right now. So it sounds like they're just going to have a position battle for first base there.
Yeah, and question for you, Nick. So if you've got Javi Baez at shortstop, who's trash, why wouldn't you move Keith to short and let him battle with Baez?
Too much money. I don't think the Tigers are in a spot where they can just put that money on the bench and just, you know what I mean? They can't just like burn it. They can't set it on fire like some of these other organizations can.
So that because what that tells me is they plan to go into the season with Javi Baez as their shortstop.
1,000%. I think they do.
Horrifies me because that team was so much better without him in the lineup.
Yeah, and maybe that works itself out. Baseball has a cruel way of doing that, of working it out. Like,
yep,
the baseball gods are cruel, and
they are.
If he's not performing, something will happen. AJ Hinch will bench him. I don't think Baez is above that.
No, and I have to believe AJ Hinch, with the experience he has, won't be afraid to bench a veteran like that, and won't care what the front office thinks.
Right.
He's going to put the best team out there each night.
Yeah.
An interesting point from in the chat here about Torres, prove it deal. It kind of is. And it was another question I want to get to was that really the best deal he had? 1 year, 15 mil. I mean, this is a guy who was considered to be one of the better second basemen for a stretch there. Had a high ceiling. I know hasn't been as good as expected, and he's had some serious brain lapses in the field. But is that really the best deal he had? That's surprising.
Yeah, I don't know what the Angels were kind of throwing his way, but they were in the mix for him for quite a while. Like, they were really the only team I had heard connected with Torres for a long time there.
Yeah, they were definitely in.
I don't know.
It's funny. It's funny how the market for him never materialized. But 1 year, 15 mil, that seems like at that deal, I'm surprised at that contract. I'm surprised more teams weren't like, hell, yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. And there could have been, but maybe he really likes this Tigers team. Like, we don't know what they're thinking personally. Like, he saw that Tigers team. They're young. They made it through the playoffs. Torres was clutch for the Yankees down the stretch.
He was very good.
Hot.
He was very good.
I don't know. I like this move for the Tigers. And again, like, if it's not working out, we just trade him.
Yeah.
So
he's a rental to somebody.
Right. Exactly.
But at 1 year, 15 million, I would have liked to seen the Red Sox talk to him.
1,000%.
Right-handed power bat, second baseman.
I think they're still hooked on Vaughn Grissom, hoping he comes back. But
yeah.
Josh Bell back to the Nationals, 1 year, $6 million. Not a big needle mover here, but sixth team in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
This guy is like Hunter Renfroe to me. How does this guy not find a major league spot? I mean, yes, not a high average guy, but he's got a ton of thump in his bat. And I just don't see how he can't hang on to a team. Like, he gets traded at the deadline every single year.
Yeah. I think he's one of those guys who's like just good enough to hang on. And he's got just enough value where it's like, well, yeah, we'd take him. Because you look at it, it's Washington to San Diego, then he's in Cleveland, he's in Miami, then he's in Arizona. Like, he's basically a hired gun. He's like a Nelson Cruz, but not as consistent. Where he has the ability, he just doesn't put up good enough numbers to be an everyday guy, so he just kind of gets passed around.
Yeah, I'm looking at his strikeouts here.
He's a career 258 hitter. I mean, and he's had some seasons in the 230s. Decent power, good RBI numbers, strikes out a boatload. But he also walks a fair amount.
Yeah. But my point was Josh Bell, Nathaniel Lowe, Joey Gallo.
Yeah.
That's 800 strikeouts. That's a lot of Ks.
Well, but I guess in fairness to him, like you look at, a 162 game average of 123 really isn't that bad. He's not
terrible.
a 200K guy like some of these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of strikeouts, yes. Not a great batting average. Not a terrific on base percentage. That kind of goes with the batting average. Decent slug, 447. He's got some thump, and I think he's just good enough and just kind of attractive enough that he keeps getting a job, because he does have that ability to lose a ball when you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now let's cover the top remaining free agents here. We will start with Alex Bregman. The rumored teams are Tigers, Red Sox, Yankees, and Mariners. However, it seems like the Tigers and Yankees have kind of moved into the lead there. You still think he has a shot to go to the Red Sox here?
So what I read yesterday, day before that, was that the Yankees are backing off because they just don't want to commit to the money. They've been trying to balance the luxury tax number they're at with the roster they've built. And their general consensus is they just don't feel the need to make a move like that, given where they're at. So it sounds like the Yankees have kind of fallen back. The Mariners are never going to spend that money. I love the fact they're on the list. I'd love to think they're going to make a move, but they're never going to spend that money. I don't. The Tigers have been talking to Bregman for a while. They can't get to a value with him, and I think the Red Sox are probably the most attractive option for him. He and Walker Buehler are partners on a racehorse, so he's got a relationship in Boston that's worth kind of following. I just feel like when all is said and done, he's going to have to pick somebody and take the best deal he can find, which may not be what he wants. And I think that the Red Sox could be that. I think that Bregman is a real serious possibility for the Mets if Alonso doesn't work out. Because you could move Vientos to first, you could put Bregman at third and be in good shape. I think the Mets are a dark horse in this. I agree with the chat.
This is a really fair point, and we've talked about this throughout the offseason. It's hard. It would be hard to sell, especially Yankees fans, on Alex Bregman, right? I mean, that Astros team cost them the ALCS there. I mean, it's a true thing. Like, as much as you hate to bring it up, like, it's a real thing. Like, which organization can sell an Alex Bregman signing to their fan base? There might not be a lot of teams out there that can.
No, and that's why the Tigers make a lot of sense. It's a fan base that could not care less about that past,
right?
And as of this morning, the Tigers are saying they're all in on Bregman, but a serious gap in value exists that they don't know if they can overcome, because they are on a strict budget, and if they can't get Bregman for terms that work, they're going to have to move on.
Yeah,
but it'd be a great place for him to restart. Go to Detroit, go be part of the buildup of that team. Get away from Houston, get away from, the history as much as you can, and try to go set yourself up somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. I just don't know if Detroit's just not a hitter's park. I mean, it's not. But I mean, Bregman's not a drop and drive hitter. Like, he hits the ball hard. He'll hit gaps. But his home run numbers will decrease if he goes there. But
well, it's like, at one point somebody suggested, maybe Alonso to the Tigers. It's like, why would a power hitter, and same with the Mariners, if you're Pete Alonso, why would you want to go to Seattle? Like, your numbers will go down in Detroit, in Seattle. Those are bigger ballparks, and Seattle's tried to hit him because it doesn't carry in that air.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think you're right. Bregman's not really a home run guy. He's a line drive, he's a line drive gap hitter. He does lose some balls, but I think his swing works anywhere.
Yeah.
He'd be
agree.
great in Boston.
Yeah.
He took advantage of the Crawford boxes in Houston. He'd love the monster.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, he'd put some new dents in that puppy for sure. But I don't know.
But I still feel like the team that's got the best chance to actually put something together with him is the Red Sox. Do I think he signs there? I still don't know where I think Bregman's going to go. I feel like every day it changes.
Yeah.
I think the Tigers make a lot of sense for him in terms of being able to just get away from all this, but I think the Red Sox are the best opportunity to put a package together.
Yeah, I agree. All right, here we go. Peter Alonso. Rumored teams: Mets, Mariners, Giants. I just don't see him going anywhere other than the Mets. I think the Mets do find a way to bring him back. The market is, and it's weird with him. I don't know what the market is for him at this point. I don't know. I just have a gut feeling it's the Mets.
I heard a great synopsis from I can't remember where I read it yesterday. I'll see if I can find the article. But it was a front office person who made a comment, who had a quote in one of the articles, and basically said the issue with Alonso is not, heart and desire. It is age and swing. And he's 30 and he's likely had his best seasons, and you're buying a declining Pete Alonso, and he wants to get paid like the Pete Alonso of a couple of years ago. And the market's saying, well, you're not that guy anymore. And you don't play, you're not a good defender. You can't run. So literally we're buying a declining bat, and we're not going to pay for the declining bat like you want us to pay for it. And I agree. I think Pete Alonso is going to have to basically swallow his pride and take a lesser deal. I think the only place that makes sense would be the Mets, because he could call it a hometown discount. But I would not be shocked if the Giants come in and make him a better offer, because they need some power. They need to make a splash. Yeah, and Adames is good.
Yeah. I think you're starting to see, like, baseball contracts were based on what a player did, right? Like, contracts were always the result of your production, like of your first 6 years, right? You always saw, like, oh, this guy was a 30 and 100 guy for the first 6 seasons, where he's going to get top of the line contract. Now you're starting to see him shift a little bit and be like, okay, we are starting to look towards the future more. I mean, minus the Xander Bogaerts contract,
which is terrible.
But teams are starting to think ahead. Like, oh, is this contract going to be worth it in 5 or 6 years? I think I see that thinking kind of switch. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think you have. I think when you look across the landscape of baseball, I think there was a time when you would pay huge money to a guy who was one-dimensional. And I think you're in a time now where you look at a guy like Pete Alonso, and it's like the bat is good, declining. The defense is not good. And teams are getting smarter, but making a big commitment to somebody who's not going to be there in the end.
Right.
With a more athletic player like a Bogaerts, like a Seager, like those kind of guys, the more athletic players, you can find somewhere to put them. When Pete Alonso can't play the field anymore, where the hell are you going to put him? There's no option.
Right.
And I think, if from what I'm reading the last couple of days, the Mets are already starting to explore their opportunities. They keep saying we'd love to bring him back at the right price, but we're way off. Like, we're not even close with him. And Pete Alonso has yet to talk to anybody who's even close on him. And I think this is a good comment in the chat. Like, San Francisco is a big ballpark. Why would he want to go there? His family's in Florida, all of which is true. But Pete Alonso, he's not a chooser right now. He's very much a beggar. He's going to have to go wherever there's an offer. San Francisco has been trying to make a splash for a while. They may throw enough money at him to make him jump. But there's no market for Pete. He's kind of a man without a market. Teams aren't going, hey, where's Pete at? Where's he going? Like, teams have moved on.
Yeah, I think with velocity up in the league today, and his average on high velocity fastballs
worse than baseball.
worse than baseball. That's a big concern for every major league team. I mean, listen, everybody throws triple digits now.
Yeah.
And if Pete Alonso can't hit that, like, he's got no place on my team. Like, I already Seattle Mariners, I already got guys that hit 230. I don't need another one.
Right.
You know, yes, he's going to hit you 45, 50 home runs a year, possibly. But if he keeps declining, are you going to invest that money? No, you're not. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because, you know, Pete statistically had his best season, I think, is 23. He's typically been a negative defensive run saved guy, a very low range factor guy. Defensively, he is mediocre. He's below average. Is he going to hurt you? No, he's not going to. He's not going to hurt you. You're not going to lose games because Pete Alonso is playing first base, but he's not going to help you. When you set him up alongside, you know, his peer group, you know, Goldschmidt and Christian Walker, like, those guys are so much better than him defensively. It's not even close. Not even close. You know, but Pete's got the slightly better bat. But you look at what those guys signed for. I mean, 20 million and 15 million or 12 million. Pete's looking for 20, mid to high 20s. Those guys in the same spot as him were getting significantly less than that. Like, he's off pace with market.
Yeah.
And because of that, he's got no market right now. So I think he's going to have to settle. And I think it makes the most sense for him to settle with the New York Mets, or at least go home. But I wouldn't rule out the Giants being a little bit more aggressive to get him, knowing that they're not going to pay full price for him.
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of like the Aaron Judge syndrome here too. Chases that slider off the outside part of the plate. For, you know, like, as great of a hitter as Aaron Judge is, he chases that slider quite a bit. And
yeah,
listen, I'm not going to say that it's easy to hit a slider, but, you know, they both tend to chase that down and away slider a lot. But yeah, for me, it's his batting average against the high velocity fastballs. It's that teams are like, no, thanks. So
yeah, I mean, you can beat Pete with a good fastball, and the problem is he also chases stuff on top of that, so that hurts. I mean, 2023 is probably his best season in terms of just like pure stats. Lowest batting average, but best power season. 2022 might have been his best overall season. Last year was a pretty big step back. It's hard to tell what you're going to get.
Yeah,
and teams aren't willing to bank on it.
No, as they shouldn't, for sure. But all right. Anthony Santander. This one today, rumors that the Blue Jays and the Angels are the front runners for Santander. Angels are, you know, in the same boat as the Blue Jays here. They want to make something happen, and they just can't because they lose out to other bigger market teams. But to me, I don't think the Blue Jays lose this one. I think the Blue Jays finally land their guy. I think Santander stays in the East. I don't know. That's just me. I think he wants to go up there with Guerrero, Bichette. He would be a centerpiece in that lineup for sure behind those two. Blue Jays make a lot of sense for me here.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm going off menu. I'm going with the Mets on this one. They were so close on Teoscar and missed out on him. I think they desperately want another bat in that lineup. I do think they've got concerns about being able to re-sign Pete, and I think Santander would be a good place to pivot. So I see him making a lot of sense for the Mets.
Yeah.
I agree the Angels will be a good spot. I think the Blue Jays are probably the most likely still. But I'm still feeling like the Mets are going to make a run at him that they haven't made yet. But I think it makes too much sense for them not to be calling to find out what the deal is.
But if the Mets don't want to spend on their glaring hole right now, which is starting pitching, are they going to want to spend that money for Santander for just another outfield spot?
Reports out of New York say they feel really good with the guys they have. They feel good about Robertson and McGill. They think those are major league ready starters.
Okay.
I don't know. Right. I'm not willing to bet $750 million on Juan Soto that those guys are going to be enough to carry us back to the playoffs. But I'm not in that Mets front office, but they don't feel the need for starting pitching like we feel the need for starting pitching for them.
You're putting a lot of eggs in the Clay Holmes basket if that's what you're doing. And I mean,
Oh, yeah.
yes, you brought back Manaea. That's good for the Mets, but he's solid. And I don't think he's anything more than solid. Like the Mets need an ace in there. And maybe they're banking that Senga is going to be that ace. He's going to come back and he's going to give them ace like stuff, which he has the potential to.
Yep.
Maybe that's what they're rolling with is just Senga and Manaea, and they're hoping to piece together the other 3/4 if they go with a 6-man rotation. I don't know. For me, if I like you said, if I spend all that money for Juan Soto, it's like, okay, I opened the window. The window is wide open for us to win now
for 5 years.
Let's bring in everybody we can to win now.
Yeah, because if you don't win in the next 5 years, Soto will likely opt out.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, do I see the Mets spending for him? Sure. I mean, Cohen can pay for anybody he wants, really. Yep. But I don't know. For me, it's just something saying the Blue Jays aren't going to lose this one because they have been desperately trying to get free agents there, kind of like the Giants for the last few years. They finally landed Adames, but I feel like the Blue Jays are just desperate to bring in a decent free agent up there to at least give those two some sort of protection in that lineup.
Yeah. And then as of this morning, the Tigers have also called on him because if they don't get Bregman, I think he's a potential plan B.
Yeah.
So I think, Santander could be a guy who hangs out a little bit longer waiting to see. I think the issue for Santander is that he's not kind of the A-level free agent. He's that next tier down. And until you clear out all the A-levels, you don't know wit's left for you.
Which is crazy. A 44 and 100 guy, and we're like, hey, yeah, you're not quite good enough here.
It is funny though. Teoscar was, getting much more attention than Santander, and I would say Santander is probably the guy you want out of the two of them. And the Dodgers ran on Santander until Teoscar finally came back. Yeah. So I mean, who knows? I think more teams will jump into this sweepstakes here shortly, but he may sit tight for a little bit longer.
Yeah, the Angels are definitely in there for sure. The Angels are a front runner for him. For me, I think it's the Blue Jays or the Angels because they need somebody there. And maybe it's the Angels' backup plan because they're not sure about Mike Trout's status either. Like, yes, he's not a center fielder, but it's another outfielder because, as we've talked about before, Mike Trout can't stay on the field, which is such a travesty for MLB. But maybe the Angels do kind of overpay or offer him top dollar to get him there. I don't know. But the Blue Jays have the cash, and they've told everybody, hey, we want to spend it. So I don't know. We'll see.
What I find surprising with Toronto, so all that being said, if Toronto was that, because they've been talking about Santander for 2 months now, like they've been in on him for this whole offseason. Why hasn't he signed yet? Like, if you're that serious, why have you not just blown this guy away with an offer to get him to sign? And I think that's what the Blue Jays do. I think they kind of nibble on the edge. They're like, hey, we're interested. Like, let's talk some terms. And hey, we might do this. But I think the difference is they lose out on guys because other teams come in and just ring the bell. Here's the offer that you really want. Sign it. Let's go. I think the Blue Jays don't make a strong enough offer to get guys to say, I'm done. Let's do this.
Yeah.
They're kind of hanging around, nibbling on the edge, and it doesn't work. Like, if you wanted him that badly, he should have been signed by now. And now you run the risk of losing him to somebody else who wasn't even in the running for him a month ago, who's going to sweep in and grab him.
I think for you too is like, the Blue Jays could have called and offered him, top of the line, but do the players really want to go to Toronto? Like we've been talking about it the last few weeks. Like
I've been saying that for months now.
Right. Like these guys have a choice on where they play their next few seasons. And if Toronto comes in, if Colorado comes in, if Miami Marlins come in, like they have to blow my socks off to get me to go there. Otherwise than that, it's like, no, I'm going to sit back and wait and see what these other teams have to offer. Because I will take less to go to a Yankees, a Red Sox, somewhere that's desirable for me.
And Corbin Burns is a great example of that. he had a significantly better offer from the Giants, closer to 250 for the same time period. But because Arizona has the I think it's no state income tax
Right.
versus California's insane taxes, he's going to make almost the same money at the end of the day on the smaller contract and be closer to home.
Right.
And to him, it was like dollar wise, it's the same. I don't care what the headline says. I'm going to put the same amount of money in my pocket. That's what matters to me.
Right.
Going to Toronto is a hassle.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. For me, I don't think the Blue Jays lose out on this one in particular, but they've lost for too many years trying to get guys there. So
yeah, I go back to like how hard are they trying to get these guys? Like if they really wanted them, he should have been signed by now.
I don't disagree with that for sure. But all right. Ha-Seong Kim. This is an interesting one too, because this guy is a very solid middle infielder.
I love him. Love this guy.
Padres, Braves, Yankees are the top teams rumored here. And my pick here is the Braves because I'm not sure that the Braves are sold on Arcia. And I don't know.
Seem like they are.
Yeah, and I don't know why that is. Like he was an all-star last year, wasn't he? So
he's been really good for them.
Yeah.
I mean, you traded Vaughn Grissom, who was your future shortstop, because you were so comfortable with him, and now all of a sudden you're like, maybe not.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's my prediction here. Again, I'd love to see him in a Red Sox uniform for sure. That we need a second baseman.
Been saying this for 2 years. Like, please bring him to Boston. Like the guy can do a little bit of everything.
Yep. Yeah, Sean, when he was on, was like calling for this guy for the last 2 years for sure. Like he's just like, just please put a package together. Like we were talking about during the Bogarts, like mid-season. Like, all right, if we're not going to sign him, trade him to San Diego for this guy, and Bogarts ends up going to San Diego anyways. And it's like, God dang. But
yeah. So Arcia was an all-star in 2023. Last year he hit like 50 points lower. It was not a great season for him.
Okay. So it was 2023 but
yeah, I don't think they're convinced that he can consistently do what he did in 23. I mean, 2023 was kind of an anomaly for him.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got an agreement here. Ha-Seong Kim to the Braves, but you think the Yankees?
I think the Yankees are going to say, we're out on the Bregman thing. We're going to leave Jazz at third. We're going to bring Ha-Seong Kim in for less money to shore up second base.
Yeah. I don't hate that at all.
I think it's a safe move for the Yankees.
Yeah.
That really, I think at that point kind of completes the lineup.
Yep. I would agree. All right. Tanner Scott. This one's very interesting. A lot of teams in on him. We got Yankees, Dodgers, Phillies, Orioles, D-backs, Mariners. So this guy could come in, be your closer. Great bullpen arm. My guess here is the Phillies to shore up that bullpen behind the 5 starters that they have. We talked about their rotation last week with them getting Jesus Luzardo from the Marlins. I think Tanner Scott and that Phillies bullpen would be lights out for that pitching staff now. You know, they got Jordan Romano from the Blue Jays after the Blue Jays non-tendered him. And who knows? I mean, and Carlos Estevez is a free agent. We haven't heard anything on him yet. So
right.
I think the Phillies would be the fit for Tanner Scott here.
Yeah, and it would make a lot of sense for the Phillies to keep beefing up that bullpen. I from what I'm reading, it seems like, John, completely agree. The teal Marlins uniforms.
It's the best ever made, period.
Love them. I miss the days when they were like the sleeveless uniforms, like back in the early 2000s, late 90s. Those were awesome. But anyways, from what I'm reading, it sounds like the Yankees and Dodgers are the two potentially most aggressive right now. The Cubs are also rumored to be getting into the market here. Jed Hoyer wants to beef up that bullpen. The Phillies have been talking to him, it sounds like, all along. And the other, I haven't heard anything about the Orioles, D-backs, or Mariners of late. It seems like the 3 of them are kind of tire kickers more than serious bidders. I'm going Yankees because I think they're determined to absolutely round out that bullpen with another arm they can use late in games, because that was a battle for them last year. I think if you can sign Ha-Seong Kim and sign Tanner Scott, the Yankees can put their pencils down and feel really good going
Yep.
into the season that they're going to be
Yeah.
one hell of a team to beat.
Yeah, they already are. They already are going to be a hell of a
They-
team to beat, and
I
if they
mean-
add those two pieces, for sure.
I mean, I think the Yankees as it stands right now are the clear American League favorite. I think that you add Ha-Seong Kim and Tanner Scott to round out that roster, and I'm not sure who in the American League beats them.
Yeah. All right. Roki Sasaki latest. So I didn't put rumored on him because honestly, at this point, the rumors are everywhere. So I put teams visited. So he's visited the Dodgers, the Giants, Rangers, Yankees, Cubs, and Mets. I have the Cubs here as a complete dark horse. I think Imanaga could be a little bit of a pull for him there.
Yep.
That's really the only reason I have the Cubs there. Other than that, I think it's Dodgers or Padres. And most likely your prediction is right. I think he ends up with Shohei and Yamamoto.
Yeah,
I'm
going Dodgers till he signs somewhere else. Like I feel like
yeah.
I feel like the pull of being on that team with those guys. I don't know how a young kid from Japan goes, no, I don't want that. Like, let's go somewhere else.
Right.
I feel like it's the Dodgers until it's not for him.
Yep.
And I wasn't sure based on what I read, but like, is he planning on more team visits or is this basically it? Has he met with who he wants to meet with?
I haven't heard either way, to be honest, but
because he's expected his window to sign is in the next couple weeks, isn't it?
I believe he was
January 15th. He's got to sign.
I don't think he has to sign, or he can't sign until after that.
Oh, is that the other way around?
It was. I think that's what it was.
Because I feel like I feel like January 15th is a big deal for him.
Yeah,
time wise,
because he was officially posted the beginning of December, I believe, right, or mid-December, and he's got 45 days, I think, is what it was. So technically, I think he has till the end of January. But yeah, January 15th is a date that's sticking out, but I can't remember exactly what that meant. Either he could sign after that day, or I don't know. It was something to do with a posting fee. All that stuff confuses me. So
yeah. So from what I'm reading right now, as of an hour ago, Sasaki has returned to Japan to consider next steps. He's not taking any more meetings.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So January 15th is the kind of the window to sign. He's got until the end of January. He's expected to sign between the 15th and 23rd based on his agent. He'll sign sometime that week.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Jurickson, Profar, Padres, it looks like.
There's no market for this guy. I mean, literally, there's no market. And it's because he's a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
And I think teams will like, do it again and we'll be interested. But until you do it again, we're not.
Yep. All right. Moving on. Jack Flaherty. Dodgers, Tigers, and Orioles are the front runners here. Rumored teams to be the front runners. Harrison thinks the Giants are going to jump in here.
I'm going off menu again. I feel like the Giants are going to be in on him. They need pitching. Buster Posey's trying to make a splash and make a name for himself and as his first year and as is he the president of baseball ops? He's not the GM, but
yeah, he's the president.
And I think that fan base is dying for a winner and he wants to bring him one. And I think Flaherty could make a lot of sense. He's like a low risk, not a super expensive guy, but he's a workhorse and a bulldog.
Yeah. I'm saying the Orioles because they lost Corbin Burns.
Yeah,
they need somebody in that starting rotation. Yes, Zach Eflin's nice. Kyle Bradish is hopefully coming back off his arm injury. Grayson Rodriguez will develop. I think he goes to the Orioles to bolster that starting rotation a little bit more.
I like the idea of him in Baltimore. I think that fan base would love him too.
And he was already there. Remember, he was there he got traded from the Cardinals to there.
That's right. I forgot.
He's been there before.
He did a tour of duty there.
Yep. So to me, it's kind of screaming Orioles more out of desperation and need than anything else.
Yeah, I think if you're the Orioles, you're walking towards the 2025 season, coming up on January 1st here, you're walking into 2025, not nearly as good as you were last year.
No.
You've got to do something fast.
Absolutely. Yep. All right. These three, Harrison, I have not heard anything other than possibly Scherzer going to the Phillies, but with them getting Lazardo, I don't know if he ends up going there now. But Scherzer, Verlander, and Kershaw, where are they going? What are they doing?
You can read my prediction right in there. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a market for any of them right now necessarily. I could so honestly, I could see these guys sitting around until May when somebody gets hurt and getting a phone call.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody right now is prepared to give these guys anything more than like an incentive laden contract because I don't think you know what you're going to get. Kershaw pitched 30 innings last year, and I'm not even sure if he can get on the field still. Scherzer was terrible in the limited time he was out there, and Verlander was terrible in the limited time he was out there. And these are all guys. I mean, I shouldn't say they're not all guys. Kershaw's a little bit younger, but Max and Justin Verlander are not young guys.
no.
These guys have got a lot of miles in those arms. Verlander is one of the most durable guys out there, or had been. But I could see the season starting with all three of those guys on the couch, and then somebody gets hurt and they get a call. But I don't think anybody wants to commit to them right now because I don't think you know what you're going to get.
Yeah. All my predictions are kind of like a feel-good baseball story, if you will. Scherzer and Verlander go back to Detroit where it all started.
Could you imagine if the Tigers got them for like dirt cheap and they were the 4 or 5 starters and like how fun that would be?
Yeah, and it's kind of like their sunset tour. And then as much as there's rumors that Kershaw would go to the Rangers for a year because that's his home state and finish out his career. I just think the Dodgers bring him back on a crazy, crazy cheap contract to get his 41 strikeouts to get to 3,000 Ks, and then Kershaw hangs him up. I think that's the deal with him. I don't see Kershaw going anywhere else except for retire and Dodgers at this point. But I think it would be cool to see Scherzer and Verlander back in Detroit where it all started, and then just have them right off into the sunset, and then we'll see them all at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony in 6 years.
Yeah, and like I said, I could see them popping up and coming in later in the season. Almost like Clemens used to do. I'll pitch half a year somewhere. But I do think there's going to be a level of there's going to be some teams like we've talked about, the bottom feeders, the lower payroll teams that are going to be looking in February, but like, who didn't get signed? Okay, cool. Max Scherzer's out. Let's call Max, see what his price is. There's rumors today that the Cardinals are considering calling Max Scherzer to see if he come in on a 1-year low money incentive laden deal. Because what do you got to lose? Like, You got nothing to lose. You don't commit a lot of money to him. You let him go earn it by pitching. Like, I see February, March, like that's when teams are going to start really calling on those guys, see what the situation is, or in the season when somebody gets hurt. But
yeah,
I don't see any of those guys signing before the season, before spring training starts. I just don't think teams need them. And I don't think teams trust that there's anything left to get.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. All right. We are going to move on to a new segment that we put together this week, One Season Wonders. So these guys came up, were a flash in the pan, and then we didn't hear from them again. So here we go. I'm going to start with a little bit out of the rules to start because this was a 2-year kind of blip. Travis Shaw with the Brewers.
I love when you like immediately break the rules of your own thing. I love it.
I got to. But 273 average in 2017, 31 and 100, 34 doubles. I mean, that's a pretty damn good season.
Really good season.
Yeah. And I looked at it to 2018 because 2017 to me, I remembered Travis Shaw just being absolutely dominant. But then I start looking at the numbers in 2018 and I'm like, wait, he had a higher WAR. He had one more homer, but less RBIs, and his batting average was way lower. So like, that's where WAR to me is like lost a little bit, unless he was better defensively somehow.
Probably better. I don't know. Probably better defensively.
But
didn't they move him to first?
They probably, I think that's what they did.
He probably gets the benefit of being at a lower rated position.
But I have him here because after that, he was done. I mean, the first two
Bad.
seasons with the Red Sox, he was a 1 WAR, and then he was a negative WAR every year after 2018. So to me, the 1 season wonder, well, 2 season wonder, Travis Shaw with the Brewers for that stretch.
But yeah, he was. I mean, every night it seemed like he had some big hit.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And for you.
All right. I just went the Red Sox because this one immediately pops into mind because he might have been the greatest tease ever. So 2013, Daniel Nava for the Red Sox. He is most remembered for that first pitch grand slam hit in 2010, which was wild. But in 2013, 303 batting average, 12 home runs, 66 RBIs, 139 hits. He ended up playing 7 years. And for his career, he had 452 hits and 29 home runs. After this season, he literally didn't do anything.
Yeah.
He got the Red Sox, ended up demoting him to a part-time player. He ended up getting cut loose. It literally, for him, it was the one grand slam moment, the one season of 2013. Otherwise, his career was a bunch of nothing in between. And he had no teams interested in him.
Yeah.
At all.
Now I remember when he came up, like Red Sox Nation was excited for this dude.
Oh yeah.
And just never quite panned out.
No, and he played a big role in that 2013 team.
Yeah.
So thank you, Daniel Nava, for what you did in 2013. But that was it. His whole career. I mean, you look at his numbers, and like a third of his whole career production was in that season.
Yeah. All right. I have 2010 Ubaldo Jimenez
Such
for
a
the
good
Rockies. 19-8 win-loss record, 2.88 ERA, which is unreal at Coors Field.
Oh, stupid.
221 and 2/3 innings pitched, 214 Ks. It was his only All-Star appearance and then third in Cy Young voting that year. And then you can see his career stats after that. 4.34 career ERA, 114 and 117 win-loss record. When you have a 19-8 win-loss in one season and your career record is below 500, that's pretty rough.
Well, and you look at Ubaldo Jimenez, like he was slowly getting better. Like in 2008, he was 12-12 with a 3.99. 2009, he was 15-12 with a 3.47. All of a sudden, he's 19-8 with a 2.88. And then he comes right back 10-13 with a 4.68. Year after that, he's 9-17 with a 5.4 in Cleveland, and it just got really bad for him. It just kept getting worse.
Yep.
But that season he was so good. He was just unhittable.
Yeah, and he threw a no-hitter that year as well.
That's right, he did.
Yep. So
yeah, the only All-Star he made in his whole career was that season.
Yep, absolutely.
But rough.
Yep. All
right. One of my favorite quirky ball players of all time, Mark Fidrich. So 1976, Mark Fidrich, 19-9 with a 234, 24 complete games, 250 in the third innings pitched. He started only 27 more games in his career and pitched only 162 more innings. It was a lot of things. It was injuries. It was inconsistency. It was, the guy was borderline nuts.
Borderline?
I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but but yeah, Fidrich, that season, he was so unbelievably good. And the rest of his career was just nothing.
Yeah.
It was starts and stops. It was injuries. It was inconsistency. It was just bad.
Yeah.
But that season, will live, 24 complete games and 250 innings, like stupid good season, but unremarkable career.
And thanks to social media, like fans of our generation can appreciate him now and his quirkiness, like him turning his back to the plate and pounding his glove and then sprinting to the mound and getting ready to throw. Like, all those different quirks that he had, like we get to see that now because of all the clips of him out there. But it's a guy that I wish I could have seen play because I hear people of that generation talk about him and they're like, oh yeah, he was electrifying to watch just because he was so out there.
Yeah. So 1976, he's 21 years old. It's his rookie season. He's an all-star, runner-up Cy Young, 11th in MVP voting, won the Rookie of the Year. Next season, he's 6-4, 2.89 ERA in only 11 starts because he got hurt. He made the All-Star team, then he got hurt. And then it was 2-0 with a 2.45 in 3 games and out for the rest of the season. 0-3 with a 10.43 ERA in 4 games. 2-3 with a 5.68 in 9 games, and out of baseball by 1980.
Yeah.
He couldn't get on the field. Even when he was on the field, he was just a loose cannon. But yeah, 250 innings that season. He didn't pitch 250 more his whole career. Like, it's wild to think he was that good at 21 and then just completely fell apart.
Yeah.
Completely fell apart.
Yeah. All right. Disclaimer here. I know Adrian Beltre is not a one-season wonder. He is the Red Sox one-season wonder. That's how I kind of viewed this one. 2010, Adrian Beltre for the Red Sox. He came in and had one of the best years of his career with the Red Sox, and then he was gone. So, like, it's not Beltre as the one-season wonder. It's the Red Sox one-season wonder of Adrian Beltre, if that makes sense.
And that was such a mistake to let him leave.
Oh, my God. We were screaming to re-sign this dude. He was a beast for us that year.
And he just continued to be good everywhere he went.
I mean, obviously, he's a Hall of Famer, but 321 batting average, 28 homers, 102, 49 doubles. I mean, this dude was just wearing out Fenway Park, and it was such an amazing season to watch him at third base for our Red Sox. And I hate, like you said, I hate that they did not find a way to keep him in Boston. But yeah, again, not Adrian Beltre as a one-season wonder. The Red Sox one-season wonder of Adrian Beltre.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and my theory is, Adrian Beltre used the Red Sox to basically reboot his career.
Yeah.
He was coming off of some really bad I shouldn't say really bad. He was coming off some not great seasons in Seattle. That was a huge mistake for him to go there, leaving LA. That ballpark didn't fit his game. He still played great defense. He came to Boston where he knew he could mash with the monster. He used that to get a big deal out of Texas. I don't think he ever had the intent of staying in Boston. I think he targeted Boston to say, look, I could turn my career around in that ballpark. It'll make me look great. It did. And then he went and got paid. I don't think Adrian Beltre ever intended on staying in Boston. I think this was just a stop to reboot his career.
Yeah. I hope Dontrell's on this list. He'll come up later in the show. He's not on this one, but we will do one season wonders again for sure at some point.
Oh yeah, we could have kept going for sure.
Yeah. And for you, Harrison.
All right. So 2004, Bobby Crosby for the Athletics. Won the Rookie of the Year, and won it comfortably. 239 batting average, 22 home runs, 64 RBIs, 130 hits. Played really good defense for them. Like, he did everything in 2004. And that was it. He was the 3.3 WAR in 2004. He had 5.4 career WAR for the entirety of his career. Not like in addition to, but his whole career. It was all 2004.
Yeah.
And he was really good for them. I mean, his numbers were good. He played good defense, won the Rookie of the Year. Like, he was the future. He was the guy they were going to build around. And then all of a sudden he wasn't. And he was just dreadful for them. I mean, just so bad.
Yeah.
And another guy who, health issues, consistency issues, just never was able to put it together.
Yeah. Yeah. When Harrison sent me his list of these guys, I go, oh, Bobby Crosby is such a good one. Like, literally word for word what you just said, John. Like, absolutely. I was like,
well, and I almost picked on the other Rookie of the Year winner the A's had, which was Ben Grieve. A similar guy who came up, had a monster season, and basically disappeared.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great one.
There was a lot of these guys in the late 90s, early 2000s that came up, had a good season or two, and then were gone.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was with that era, if it was just that there was just that much talent pushed these guys out. But I mean, Crosby was the future of that organization, and then he was just a complete shell of himself after that. No All-Star games, no nothing. I mean, I think he played one full season after that. A lot of like half seasons. Seasons hitting 229, 226, 220, and just then he ended up in Pittsburgh, then Arizona. It was just terrible.
Yeah. All right. 2006, Joel Zumaya for the Tigers. So 6-3 win-loss record, a sub-2 ERA, 1.94, 97 Ks, 83 and 1/3 innings pitched. His highest inning total after 2006 was 38 1/3.
Because he loved his Guitar Hero, baby. Wah!
My goodness. So yeah, career 3.05 ERA. After that, absolutely
terrible.
flash in the pan right there.
The guy ruined his career by overplaying Guitar Hero and causing damage to his wrist.
Yeah.
Like, think about that for a second. How much Guitar Hero are you playing to cause permanent damage to your wrist?
Apparently quite a bit.
And who throws away a baseball career to play friggin' Guitar Hero?
Maybe he was really freaking good at Guitar Hero.
I hope he was. I mean, he better be like the best Guitar Hero player ever.
Yeah. But yeah, that was.
I mean, he was so like elite, just crazy velocity, and then gone.
Imagine going into the office and telling your manager that, like, hey, I think I need a stint on the IL. Oh, how'd you hurt your wrist? Like falling out of the shower or falling anywhere? Like, no, too much Guitar Hero.
Dude, but I mastered the expert level of this song. You should see it. I don't want to see it. Put the damn game away.
Yeah, absolutely crazy.
But I mean, could you imagine throwing a career away over a video game? I'll never understand that one. That one was so crazy at the time.
Yeah, wild.
All right. This might be a half season wonder, really, for Chase Headley. So 2012, Chase Headley for the Padres, 286 batting average, 31 home runs, 115 RBI, slugged 498. He won the only Gold Glove and Silver Slugger of his career this season. He hit 8 home runs in the first half and 23 home runs in the second half. It may be one of the best single halves of baseball in baseball history. Like, his second half was so elite. But you look at it, he played 12 seasons, hit 130 total home runs in 12 seasons, so 90 more home runs in 11 years. Never won another Gold Glove, never won another Silver Slugger. Most of us remember him going to the Yankees, where he was a complete friggin' disaster. Yeah. He's fight with managers, getting ejected from games. I mean, his career just went right off the rails. And honestly, when you look at it, like, outside of the season, there wasn't much from him.
No.
But he got paid by the Yankees for it.
Yeah, again, that goes back to what I was talking about, the contracts. You know, it was like, oh, you got paid for what you did previously in your career versus what we hope you will do. But
yeah, another guy who had some injury issues, some consistency issues. He also seemed to have he seemed to be a bit of a head case. But he got to New York and fell apart. He played one more season in San Diego and then fell apart.
Yeah. 1999, Fernando Tatis Sr. for the Cardinals. So 3.0 WAR in 99. His next highest was in 2000 at a 1.6. 298 batting average, 34 homers, 107 RBIs, 104 runs scored. Next highest home run total was 18. And his next highest RBI total was 64. So, I mean, breakout season, and then that was it.
It was all about the Grand Slams, man.
Well, I mean, yeah, he'll be forever cemented in MLB history, because I'm going to go out on a limb and say that will never, ever happen again.
Boy, could you? I mean, that was wild. I remember it happening, and it was just like, how?
Off Chan-Ho Park, both of them too. Like, first of all, why are the Dodgers keeping him in, getting shelled like that? Yeah. Other than just trying to get outs, and obviously he couldn't that day.
Yeah, it was just trying to eat the bullpen up that early in the game.
But yeah, crazy. But yeah, terrible. Fernando Tatis, 1999.
Well, I think people tend to remember Tatis as a really solid, like a really, really good major leaguer. And he really wasn't. You know, he had a season and a half where he was really good. Otherwise, he was pretty mediocre.
Yeah.
He was just on that Cardinals team with all those other guys, all those other names.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
This is a fun one, Harrison.
This is one of my favorite. This might be my all-time one season wonders. And I'm going back to college for this one, because most of you remember this guy. So 1999, Marshall McDougal for the Seminoles. He's most remembered for going 7 for 7 with 6 home runs and 16 RBIs against Maryland. All came in one game. That season, he hit 419, 28 home runs, 160 RBI, 106 RBIs. He slugged 804 in only 71 games. Only 71 games. He got drafted in the 9th round in 2000 by Oakland, and he went 3 for 18 in his career. Never had more than he had. Literally had a cup of coffee for 1 year with for actually not even 1 year, 18 games, I think, or 15 games with Texas, and that was it. The guy was decent in the minors, not great. Got to the majors, couldn't hit, got sent down, never came back. But to me, he's one of the all-time like what ifs for college players. He was the next big thing. He got taken in the 9th round because he only played 2 years of college baseball. They weren't sure what to expect of him. His second season was good, but not nearly this good. Smaller guy, didn't project as a great major leaguer, but you thought you were going to get something from him, and you got nothing. 3 hits in his whole career.
Those 6 home runs he hit in that game, though, all of them were absolute tanks.
Oh, they're bombs.
All 6 of them were absolutely insane. Like,
oh my goodness.
6 home runs in a game is absolutely wild. But I mean, that clip's been going around for a while too. If you haven't seen it, you need to look it up. It is crazy. But yeah, I mean, that's absolutely a wonder. Like, if you do that in college, like you do that at any level, it's impressive.
Yeah.
Let alone
I just put a link in the
college.
chat to a little 2-minute video kind of recapping that game. But I mean, I think it was 6 home runs, 16 RBIs. It was 25 total bases or something insane. Like, it was bananas. The records that'll never be touched.
No.
And that whole season, I mean, he was the player of the year. They got all the way to the finals in the College World Series. Like, as a big Seminole fan, I always thought he would be one of those guys you look back on years down the road going, oh yeah, like look at his pro career. Never had one.
No. Crazy. All right. Mr. Buffet himself, 2022, Alek Manoah for the Blue Jays. I mean, we all know that year he had. I mean, he was absolutely dominant and filthy and, Cy Young caliber stuff. And then pitch clock came out and it was career over. 16-7 win-loss record, 196 and 2/3 innings pitched, 180 Ks, a below 1 whip, and a 6.0 WAR for a single season. Nuts. But
great season.
5.87 ERA and 19 starts the following season, and we all know the Alek Manoah story since then. He just can't get back. And I mean, I think the pitch clock seems to be the culprit. I mean, that's when everything kind of went downhill for him.
I mean, he imploded in 23 when the pitch clock got introduced.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure what else to tie it to, but he was a well-known like slow worker on the plate, on the mound. So I think a lot of people immediately jumped on that, but I mean, his season was unreal. 31 starts, 2.24 ERA, pitched almost 200 innings. I mean, great season. Yeah.
Yeah. You have under a 1 whip, like that's a pretty damn good season.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was the ace of that staff. Like they were expecting to build around him. And like when we went through like the All I Want for Christmas, like that's what I said for the Blue Jays. They need an ace. They thought it was Manoah. It's not Manoah. He has lost it. They need that ace. They were planning to build around him. And when they lost him, that was a huge blow to that plan. And that's a big part. That's a big reason why they are where they are. Like everything they thought they had in place is kind of thrown into disarray when he forgot how to pitch.
Yeah.
A name we both had.
Yeah.
Because obviously. So 1996, Brady Anderson for the Orioles. Now, in Brady's defense, played 15 years. And was always kind of a good enough ball player to be out there. This season was unreal. 297 average, 50 home runs, 110 RBIs. He slugged 637. His career slugging percentage was .425. He hit 210 career home runs in 15 seasons. So 160 in the other 14 years combined. a guy who was always good, not great, not a perennial all-star, not anybody kind of you take note of, but just kind of around and had an okay career. But it was that season that like launched him to being, kind of like a almost household name. But other than that, he was always a pretty average to decent player.
And I would also argue that every time the steroid era is brought up in any baseball conversation, his name is almost brought up every single time because of this season. I mean, he was a 15 home run guy the rest of his career, and then all of a sudden he had a 50 home run performance, and we're just like, okay, wait a minute.
He hit 20. So his second best season was 21 home runs and second best overall season.
Yeah,
20. He hit 21 home runs, drove in 80, hit 271 in 1992, and then in 99 at 35, he hit 282 with 24 and 81.
Yeah,
but he's a career 256 hitter, 210 home runs, 761 RBIs. I mean, he had so much as production in that single season. I mean, 3-time All-Star, because he had a couple of the seasons where he was pretty good, but he was never like this kind of player. He was a 240, 250 hitter with 15 to 18 home runs, and he was always kind of good enough to be out there.
Yep. Yeah, definitely got a few Balco packages in the mail in 96. Yep. Totally agree, John.
Well, what's funny is like, we think of the steroid era, like really starting off in 98 with that home run race. I mean, this stuff, it started sooner than that.
Yep.
Because Brady Anderson didn't show up to spring training all of a sudden, like bigger with a better swing. Something changed.
It started after the strike in 94. Let's be completely honest.
They had to bring baseball back.
And Bud Selig turned his back. He knew what was going on. This was going to save baseball. 98 completely brought baseball back because people weren't watching, unless you were a diehard baseball fan, you weren't coming back to baseball after the strike unless something exciting started to happen. Bud Selig turns his back. He gets all the credit for saving baseball. He gets elected to the Hall of Fame, but all the players get to stay out. Okay, I'll go on a tangent another episode, but it's absolutely criminal that guy is in the Hall of Fame. I hate that, but there's no doubt that this was a steroid or PED induced season in my eyes. I mean, you just can't have an anomaly to that effect without some help, right? I mean, yes, baseball can be a fluky game. I know it can. And when you find your swing and you're locked in, like you can get real hot, but you can't double your average and double your home run total hot all year. To me, anyways.
No, and you look at like the 1993 home run leaders, like Barry Bonds led the league with 46. In 95, Albert Bell led with 50. In 96, McGwire led with 52. In 97, McGwire led with 58. In 98, McGwire hit 70. Like after the strike, to your point, Nick, like that's when you see the home run numbers start to ratchet up. More guys are hitting 40 and more. You're getting past 50. Now you're approaching 60. The game, that 95 to 99 window, which was some of the best baseball we've seen in our whole lives in terms of excitement, it was all designed to bring the fans back after that awful 94 strike.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, and there's no way Bud Selig was like, wow, look, the game's changed amazingly. This is great. Like, come on.
Yeah. He knew exactly what was going on.
Like that dude sits on the throne of lies.
Yeah. 1,000%. All right. I threw this guy in last minute. 2017, Eric Thames for the Milwaukee Brewers. He started in like 2007, I believe, hung around the majors for the first 4 or 5 years, went to Japan in 2012. He was there for 5 years, didn't come back to the major leagues till 2017 and exploded onto the scene here with 31 home runs. That was the big one, was the power. He just came back. He was jacked out of his mind. I mean, you can see the forearms he's got on him. But 31 home runs, 63 RBIs, just a 1 WAR. But the player he was, and then when he got back from Japan, was completely different. He did have a very similar year in 2019 with a slightly better WAR. His numbers kind of were the same, but then that was it. He had like maybe a handful at bats in 2020, and that was it. That was his career.
The
So
dude could
literally,
not catch a cold. Like defensively, he was one of the worst.
yeah. So just kind of a flash in the pan there for Milwaukee, 2017, and a little bit in 2019. I think 18 he was hurt. He didn't have the at bats. And then, like I said, 2020 is kind of a throwaway year for everybody. But he didn't come back to baseball after that. So.
Yeah. And really, what made it more surprising is that nobody knew who the hell he was.
Right.
Like when the season started, we're like, "Who is this guy?" Like he had like a crazy hot start, and everybody in baseball is like, "Who?" Like all of us baseball fans, like, "Who the hell is this guy?" Nobody, he'd come back from Japan. Nobody knew who he was. Nobody even realized he was back. He gets off to a great start, and it's like, wow, cool. Like, who is this guy?
Yep. And then that was it. Just like that, he was gone. So
yeah, but you're right. The dude was huge, absolutely jacked out of his mind.
Yeah.
But he could not move or catch a ball to save his life.
No. Yeah, when you have arms like that, you lose your flexibility. Like if you can't even take the ball out of your glove because you can't get your arms together, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's like the dudes at the gym that like literally like can't move, they're like frozen in position. Like that was he was basically at that level.
Yeah. All right. We started this segment last week, I believe it was. This is all Harrison's idea. I love this. It sparks a lot of conversation in the comments. So we want you guys to put your input in these as well. We have 6 or 7 we're going to go through. We're going to talk through, but you have to pick one. You can't give me another name or anything like that, which I probably still will because it's my show, my rules. But
there are no rules. That's the key.
Yeah. But yeah, you gotta choose one. So we will start with this one, Harrison. You have to choose Montreal Expos logo or the Milwaukee Brewers logo.
All right. So I got to be honest. I never really understood the Expos logo.
Really?
Like it just, I've always looked at it and kind of went, I don't dislike it, but I'm like, I just don't understand like what they were going for here. The Milwaukee Brewers logo to me looked like the logo some third grader would have drawn in crayon when they were like bored in school. So I've always loved the Milwaukee Brewers logo because it is like the quintessential, most basic baseball themed logo you'll ever see anywhere. Literally a glove with a ball in the pocket of it, in the palm of it. Like it's not more basic.
Do you not know the hidden message in the glove? It says MB, Milwaukee Brewers.
Oh yeah, no, I know the M is the top fingers and the B is the circle.
Okay. I was wait a minute.
What I'm saying is like it looks like the most basic glove logo that would have been drawn by a kid.
It does. It does. But
yeah, no, I know the M and the B kind of how they swirl through there.
I believe the Expos logo was made like this because it was Expos de Montreal and then baseball. So it was, or something of that nature. So the E is for the Expos, the M kind of going into the B is for Montreal, and then the B is obviously for like baseball club. But for me, it's the Brewers logo. I've always loved this. Like from the first time, I was like, kind of like you. I was like, oh, it's just a glove with a baseball. Like that's dumb. Like who would? And then I was like, oh, it has the M and the B, like Milwaukee Brewers. So,
I mean, you may not be wrong, John. I mean, the Expos logo has always kind of made me shrug my shoulders. Like I get what they did, but like, it's just not. I don't know. It's not like great. It's classic because of what it is the Expos, and the Brewers logo, like we were saying, it's like a kid drew it.
Yeah. So then what is your favorite logo, MLB logo then? Do you have one?
I don't know that I have a favorite logo. Like I always loved the Indians Chief Wahoo, but of course you can't call them the Indians or mention Chief Wahoo ever again. So that one was always kind of out. I mean, honestly, when you look around baseball, a lot of the logos are so boring. It's not. I think you look across sports. The NFL might have some of the more colorful logos. I feel like baseball, because so many of the teams are so old, the logos are just so boring.
Yeah,
I don't know that I have a real favorite. Like, the Chief Wahoo one I always enjoyed. The old Marlin fish one, wasn't too bad, but a lot of them are just really, really basic.
Yeah, I do like the Detroit Tigers ones, the D with the tiger coming out of it. Like that one's kind of cool.
Yeah, that
Not
one's
just
good.
the D, but the tiger's got to come out of it.
Yep.
And I am impartial to the Diamondbacks logo. Like not just this A that I have on my head, but I also like the snake that is in the shape of a D. I do like those ones, and their Serpientes jerseys are. I think the Diamondbacks have the best jerseys in baseball. Period. Every single one of them are sick. But I do love those logos. But
the Oriole bird wearing the hat, that one's pretty good.
Yep.
I've always kind of liked the Mets with the city skyline in the background. I always thought that was kind of classic.
Yeah.
I don't like the Yankees with the friggin' hat. Like I just think it looks dumb.
Oh yeah, like the
hat on the bat.
the
bat holding up the hat. Like I thought that was kind of dumb. And then like so many like the Mariners, the Rangers, the Astros, the Nationals, the Athletics, like the Reds, like they're all just the Cubs. They're like all so boring. They're all just so basic.
Yeah. I tend to like a lot of the Blue Jays one is good. I do like the Blue Jays one. That one's not
good.
bad at all.
That one's good.
I do like a lot of the alternate ones too. Like I have a Nationals cap that has the Capitol building behind the W. Like I like the ones like that. But
I feel like baseball's tried to get more creative lately by giving some alternates, because I go back to so many of these teams have been around for so freaking long that the logos are boring because they were made a bajillion years ago. And I do appreciate them trying to modernize some things so they go along with the alternates. Like I think that the Pirates with the crossed bats behind the pirate, like that one's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's an alternate. It's not their typical logo.
Right.
So I think there's some good ones out there, but I feel like baseball tends to have a lot of basic logos.
Yeah.
But I've always liked the Brewers logo because it's as simple as it gets.
Right. All right. You have to choose which switch hitter do you want on your team? Chipper Jones or Eddie Murray?
Oh man. I would take Chipper. I would take Chipper. I feel like he was so balanced from both sides. His swing was definitely clearly different from each side. He had more of a slasher swing from the right-hand side. But he was so good from both sides. He was consistent from both sides. You never felt like he was giving anything up when he switched sides. I don't think Eddie Murray gave much up when he switched sides either, but Chipper was just so good in any situation against any pitcher. And I think back to like Jason Varitek, who we love, who was a far lesser hitter right-handed than left-handed. And like you didn't feel that with Chipper. He was so good for both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, tough.
Yeah, so I'm with John here. I grew up watching Chipper Jones on TBS every night. You know, the Braves were on national TV, so I got to watch Chipper Jones growing up more than I got to see Eddie Murray. I think whoever said it, like, definitely not wrong. Like, you can't lose with either. Oh, he said it in this comment. My bad. I can't lose with either. I would take either one for sure. I mean, obviously both Hall of Famers. But I think I do lean towards Chipper just because I got to see him night in and night out. But
yeah, and overall, Eddie Murray was the better hitter of the two overall. Put up better numbers in his career. I always loved watching Chipper hit. The swing was smooth, the at bats were good. He was super disciplined. Always got the big hits. Didn't give up anything from either side of the plate. I go with Chipper, and it might be part of like what John said. Like I grew up watching him. Like I watched a ton of Chipper Jones at bats. I loved watching him hit.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have loved watching Eddie Murray hit if I saw more of his at bats, but he retired in '97 when I was, not even a teenager.
Yeah. 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 You get Chipper's glove too. You get the whole player for sure.
Oh, his glove was unreal.
Yeah. So, all right. I think we're in consensus there. I mean, and Eddie Murray's no slouch, not trying to downgrade him whatsoever. But
and I think one thing is worth mentioning is that you look at Eddie Murray, career 68.7 WAR. Chipper's an 85.3 WAR. Eddie Murray had the better offensive numbers.
Yeah,
slightly lower average, more home runs, more RBIs. So, I mean, Chipper's glove was a big part of who he was.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he was nasty.
And
All right.
just awesome to watch on
Yeah.
those super boring TBS broadcasts.
Those Braves teams weren't boring to watch, that's for sure, though.
No, like the Braves to me were like the most vanilla team of the 90s. Like the ball, Turner Field was about as boring as it gets. It's perfectly uniformed around the field. The wall is blue. The bleachers are boring. The announcers had like no excitement in their voice. It was, they always talked like this during the game. And Chipper Jones hit the 3-run home run to right field, and the Braves win.
Yeah.
And it was like, are you guys going to get excited? No.
Yeah.
Like they're the most vanilla team. Like they put on the most vanilla presentation, but they were a great team.
They were. I mean, Otis Nixon, Mark Lemke, Jeff Blauser, Chipper Jones. I could go to like, oh my God,
Walt Weiss,
Fred McGriff,
Walt
Weiss, Ron Gant. I mean,
oh yeah,
God, I could just go through that whole team, but I was fun. But yeah, I agree. It was kind of a boring game to watch.
yeah. But I watched so much of it because they were on when I got home from school a lot of times. I was like, I'll catch the last couple innings.
Exactly. All right. Next one for you, Harrison. Best windup, Dontrell Willis or El Duque?
This to me, it's El Duque. Nobody hid the ball better than El Duque. He did all this crazy stuff with the, shoving his glove down by his leg and getting his leg way up. But then he would like literally like run the ball back up his leg and the side so you couldn't see it until he released it. I mean, there's nobody that was more. I would say El Duque had one of the most deceptive deliveries of anybody because he hid the ball all the way through, whereas Dontrell was just like flailing body parts, and probably equally distracting because although you could see the ball, you didn't know where the hell it was coming from because his body was going everywhere. But El Duque, like everything with El Duque was so controlled and it was clean, it was smooth, it was controlled, it was slow. Dontrell was just fury and fire and just stuff going everywhere. So I used to like to watch El Duque pitch. Dontrell Willis drove me crazy with the it was just the flailing of his body and the antics on the mound. Like El Duque was just so smooth.
Yeah. Both were really fun to watch, but I really did love Dontrell just because like I was like, how are you bending your body like that 100 times in a start and like being able to repeat your delivery all that time? Like
it's like, look at that picture, Nick. Crazy. Like his lift leg is behind his right arm. Like, how do you even unwind your body to throw a pitch?
I don't know.
I don't even know how you get to home plate with what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, John. I don't know if he was looking at the plate when he threw the ball.
I don't think he ever looked.
That's probably why he had only one really good season.
I mean, look right here. Like he's not looking at his target and he's about to start heading to the plate. So,
yeah.
And El Duque, like he would change up he would go fast. He would go slow. Like he would hold that pose. He wasn't annoying like Nestor Cortez, like with all the crazy, like leg flailing to buy time. But like he would move fast. Then all of a sudden he'd do that for a couple pitches. Then like he'd be very slow and deliberate, or he'd pause in the leg kick and like just constantly mess with you and messing with runners from the stretch too. He'd do some similar stuff from the stretch, messing with runners with timing. Nothing El Duque did was like accidental. It was all well thought out. Dontrell was just like flailing his body to throw pitches.
Yeah.
I mean, if he can stretch like that, he should be a yoga instructor. I mean, my goodness.
Now,
people would go for that kind of flexibility.
Now, I probably will bring best windup back again because
there's so many.
I mean, Hideo Nomo and Louis Tion and Johnny Cueto and there's so many. And then
Luis Garcia rocking the baby.
Oh, get out of here with that one. That one will never make the show if I make the slideshow. So.
Oh, good. I'll make sure I sneak it in next time.
Oh, God, no. Whoever you pick, it could be some vanilla windup. I'm picking the vanilla windup.
Aaron Seeley.
Yeah, I'll take him. All right. Next one. You have to choose, Harrison. Which team gets booted from the MLB forever?
So
the Yankees or the Dodgers?
Do the fans go too?
I would have put the Phillies in there if that was the case.
Fair. Okay, so just the team goes. So those fans get absorbed somewhere else?
Well, yeah, sure. The whole thing goes.
Okay, good.
We just wipe them off the face. Yeah, wipe them off the face of the earth. The Yankees or the Dodgers?
Boy, and both isn't an option?
No, you got to choose one.
See, part of me says the Yankees because I'm tired of the 27 rings thing when you've won one in the last 25 years. So, but then Dodgers fans who don't jump who barely follow their own team don't jump until the third inning and leave in the seventh. Also drive me crazy. But if I had to eliminate one, I think the organization I have the least respect for is the Dodgers. Great history. There's so much of what they've done the last 20 years that I don't like. I don't enjoy. I don't like what they're doing right now. I feel like the Dodgers are the one team that consistently tries to find the new trick and do something different, and good for them. They're creative and they're winning because of it. But an organization, like, you look at their track record in the World Series the last 10 years, like, it's not good. No. But you think they're the best team in history. And I struggle with that organization because they've gone through long stretches of really being irrelevant, and then stretches where they were really good and couldn't get it done. And then now. So I would dump the Dodgers because I don't think they add a lot of value to the game overall.
Yeah, this one is it's a tough one for me because, like, I appreciated the Yankees and Red Sox rivalry in the early 2000s, late 90s, when the Red Sox were almost there, not quite there, the heartbreak in 03, and then finally, breaking the curse in 04. Like, that rivalry is something I'll never forget for my life in my lifetime.
It was so good. So good.
And both teams were just at each other's throats all the time. And for everything you said about the Dodgers, it's true. I mean, it does seem like they just try to find the next loophole. Like, how can we exploit the rules to make it benefit us the most? Which, it's smart. It's smart business, and your team is winning because of it. Like, I mean, I get it, but I think, do we get to redistribute their cap to the other 28 teams? Yes, absolutely. So I don't know. I think the Dodgers are taking over the evil empire type role here. I don't think the Yankees are nearly as hated as they have been in the past. I think the mindset of the Steinbrenners has changed, which has kind of changed the mindsets of, MLB fans. I think the Dodgers are the new evil empire here because of everything they're doing. So,
well, I think for me too, it's not what they're doing. Like, what they're doing is totally within the rules, but it's how they're doing it. Like, it's the smugness and the whole, like, well, we're just a better team. No, you're not the better team. Like, I don't think you understand what you're doing to your franchise and what you're doing to the game right now. That bill, the $1 billion in deferred money, you've got to pay at some point. Yeah. And everybody was like, well, I saw a video the other day from a guy who's like, well, if all these owners are billionaires, they can spend the money. It's not that though. Like, you don't spend billions of dollars to buy a business that you then put millions of dollars into every year to keep it running. Like,
right.
Everybody's like, well, these guys are rich, they can just put their own money in there. Well, but why would they do that? Like, why would you run a business that you have to constantly put your own money into just to keep it running? That makes no sense. Like, this is not a hobby. And these guys they're not running a charity where they just contribute money. And I feel like Dodgers fans sit back like they're this high and mighty being where, we're just the better team. Well, maybe you are the better team, but, like, you're buying this championship. Like, you look around that roster, Teoscar Hernandez bought, Mookie Betts bought, Freeman bought, Ohtani bought, Will Smith bought. You go up and down that roster, like, you got like 3 guys that are homegrown. They do have a good minor league system. They've done well there. But, like, you're not developing, you're not doing anything but just going out and spending money for the best players out there. Anybody can do that. Like, that's not original.
Yeah.
Yeah. The West Coast smug, not East Coast smug.
Yeah.
And it's true. Like, the Dodgers are just doing what other teams can't afford to do. Whoever has the most gold, wins the game. Okay, great. Well, if that's the game you're playing, then awesome. You are winning. Yeah. But the rest of baseball is like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah. So I think I'm with you. I think I would choose the Dodgers too. But.
John, if the Yankees are the evil empire and the Dodgers are where the league goes to throw the ring of power in the volcano to destroy their greatness, that's pretty detailed, man.
Yep.
And hard to argue.
Yeah.
And I do think Yankees fans have kind of mellowed because they've gotten a lot of humble pie the last 15 years.
They have.
And you don't hear the 27 rings and blah, blah, blah. And we're so good. Like, they're not. It's because they're not. Like, they've been humbled. The Dodgers were a joke until 5 years ago. And now all of a sudden they are, the talk of the league. Smugness rating. Yes.
We might have to I'm putting that in my notes right now for a show. We might have to do that.
There are two stats I want them to start tracking. One is I want WAR for managers. I want to be able to measure a manager's performance based on their peer groups. I want WAR for managers and a smugness rating. I love that.
I love that for sure. All right. Just put it in the notes. All right. So there we go. That's a great idea. Let's do it.
I'm in. Everybody's in. Right. We love it.
All right. So look out for that in the next couple of weeks. We'll put that together because that's amazing.
And for me as a diehard Red Sox fan who's hated the Yankees for so long, like I find myself kind of impartial to the Yankees now. I'm kind of like, yeah, right. They're there, but like I don't have like, and we've talked about this in the show. Like, has that rivalry died? I feel like the rivalry's died for now.
Absolutely, it has.
You don't have the players that are keeping it going. The fan bases are, the Red Sox have won 4 times to the Yankees 1. I feel like the rivalry's kind of died for now. I don't think it's dead, but the intensity's not there anymore. And as a Red Sox fan, I'm kind of indifferent to the Yankees. I'm like, I don't really feel any way about them. Like, hell, I picked them to win the World Series.
Yeah.
I never would have done that.
I think it's just because the Red Sox just didn't win for so long. I think it was more of a rivalry for the Red Sox and Red Sox Nation than it was for the Yankees because they're like, oh, we're just beating up on the little brother year after year after year.
About us.
Right. And we were like, we have to beat them to get through the AL. Like, that's the only chance we have. And the Yankees are like, all right, well, whatever. But since the Red Sox have won, like you're right, the rivalry isn't nearly the same as it was.
No, I mean, there was a day where Red Sox Yankees was like, stop everything you're doing and watch the game. Now I'm just kind of like, what else is on?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, John just back.
You're right, John. The balance of power shifted. The Red Sox are now over the last 20 years, the Red Sox are the better team. And the Yankees are that's the interesting part of that fan base. When they're on top, you know it. When they're not, they're very quiet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's like our resident Yankee fan, Craig, who's very honest about where they are and kind of feels the same way we do.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next one. You have to choose light beer or craft beer at the game, Harrison.
So I'm not one of those like 9 beers a game people. Like I can't do it. I would rather enjoy 1 or 2 like good craft beers on a warm day with a hot dog in my hand than try to take down 7 nasty light beers. I mean, nasty relative to the craft beer. Light beer is fine, but I'm a craft beer guy. Give me 1 or 2 good beers at the game. I'm not trying to drink a bunch of them. I'm not trying to get carried out of there. A nice beer or 2 on a hot summer day with a hot dog in my hand. I'm very happy with a good craft beer. I do not want the light beer. If I'm drinking beer, I'm drinking good beer. Like I'm at the point in my life where if I'm going to have a beer, I'm not drinking the cheap crap anymore. I'm drinking the good stuff. Right. So give me the craft beer. I don't need very many of them. I'm a cheap date. I'm good.
Yeah. I'm going 9 light beers, 9 hot dogs, 9 innings. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Good for you.
Give it all for me.
Yeah. You're going to strap a second pump onto your arm or what?
Yep. No, I think I'm the same way. I'm at the point in my life where it's like, I'm not going to the game to spend $150 on 3 beers to get drunk. Like I'm not spending all that money to get wasted. Like I'll have 1 or 2, like you said. And that will be that. But so yeah, I'm with you. So being from Maine, like Maine's got a lot of craft beers too. And ever since that really started getting popular in Portland, Maine, like it was the same thing for us. It was just like, yeah, craft beers are way in. But
Yeah, so
uh,
Portland, Oregon, and Portland, Maine, I think the two Portlands have the most amount of craft breweries per capita in the country. I obviously know Portland, Maine very well. I've traveled to Portland, Oregon. That scene is amazing. Um, there's some good stuff out there.
yeah,
I don't drink. I'm the DD.
yep.
Fair.
But large
Yeah,
Pepsi.
large Pepsi works, man.
Yep.
I bet people rave about T-Mobile and how good the food and drink is, like how good the experience is. That's when we got to get to, Nick.
Yep. Yeah, we're going out there for sure. Yeah, we knew it was Portland, Oregon. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, sorry. We're both in Portland, Maine, or we're in
yeah,
Portland, Maine. So
yeah,
we know one Portland. I've been to the other Portland. You
yeah.
guys have it really good out there on the West Coast, Portland.
Yeah.
But both Portlands have the most craft breweries per capita in the country. Last I looked,
Blackout in the bleachers in Fenway is a blast, though.
Dude, John, the bleacher creatures though out there, like I'm afraid of what they do once you black out. Like I would imagine it's like Fight Club. You can't talk about it because I'm sure just terrible things happen out there.
Yeah, but
Well, it's like, but I remember back in the days of the Yankees Red Sox rivalry, you'd have people that were just smashed out in the bleachers, like starting fights like crazy.
Oh yeah.
You know, the language out there was usually pretty awful, and
Yeah.
it was epic. You know, those
Yeah.
Red Sox Yankees, 7th inning of the game, people are wasted. It's bananas.
It does seem to have calmed down quite a bit, and maybe it's because of the exponential cost of beer now that people aren't going there and getting shit tanked because they can't afford it. But
and the length of the game is shorter, and you still can't buy it for the 7th inning. So you only have like an hour and 45 minutes to get beer, and how many you used to have like 2.5. Now it's like an hour and 45 to get as many beers in as you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure blackout in the bleachers was an experience, but
for sure.
I can't even imagine the travesties that happen out there once you black out.
No. All right, Harrison. These next two are semi-connected. I want you guys in the chat to give it to us, and let me know what you think, because you're either going to be with us or against us here. And these two are pretty polarizing for baseball fans. So I kind of want to know where you guys are at. But small Hall of Fame, big Hall of Fame, where are you on this?
I'm a big Hall of Fame guy. Hall of Fame should be like a participation trophy. Everybody gets in. I'm kidding.
Okay, thank you.
Of course I'm kidding. I was waiting for your head to explode, Nick.
It was about to.
Yeah, no, I am a small Hall of Fame guy. Like the Hall of Fame it's the Hall of Fame. Like it is the 1% that get in there. It is the best of the best, the most elite, the people that change the game. You know, it is the guys. When you think of baseball, it's the people that like immediately come to mind from your generation. It is not the guys that were pretty good for a little while or really good for a few years, or it's Barry Bonds. It's not Harold Baines.
Right.
It is Roger Clemens. It is not Mike Mussina. Like it's like I look at that as these are very different levels of player. Great example, Felix Hernandez. In my mind, not a Hall of Famer. Love him. One of the best pitchers I've ever seen pitch. Not a Hall of Famer. Numbers aren't there. I am a small Hall of Fame guy. I'm all for a big friggin' museum. Tell the story of baseball and share all the people. But the hall itself should be very small. You have to be the best of the best of your era to get in. Not just good, but the best of the best.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Like I always say, like I want the 1% of the 1% in there, which would be like 2 people if you break it down, the actual math. But I don't want it that small. But like you said, I want the guys that have made the most impact in their era of baseball, their generation. Like I think of Hall of Famers. It's Ruth, it's Gehrig, it's Willie Mays, it's Hank Aaron, it's those guys. And the big Hall to me, it's getting watered down. I like you said, Harold Baines is a great example. I don't think Fred McGriff should even be in the Hall of Fame. Again, love that dude, but I don't think Fred McGriff, when I think Hall of Famer, I don't think Fred McGriff. I think Roberto Clemente, absolute Hall of Fame. Yep. Do I think Bill Mazeroski? No, the dude hit 245. Like, no.
But
like
with under that argument, like we're strong believers that Andrew Jones should be a Hall of Famer, but under that argument, maybe he's not.
He's not under a small hall. He's not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you on that. I think there's certain
Under
guys that I would not. Okay,
under under the way the Hall is elected now, Andrew Jones should be a sure ballot Hall of Famer. They're letting guys in that have 5 career at bats, for Christ's sakes. It seems like. I mean, like, oh, we really like him as a player, so we'll put him in the Hall. No, that's not what the Hall of Fame is. It needs to be small. And I'm totally with you. Big museum. Get everybody's name. If you have been a part of the MLB or even not the MLB, but you had a huge impact in baseball, your name should be in the Hall of Fame museum somewhere.
Yep.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
You just don't. Not everybody needs a plaque.
No,
but
the plaques are reserved for the elite few.
Yeah. And granted, there are some guys in the Hall of Fame that I didn't know or don't know how great their careers actually were until I actually got to the museum and got to read the plaques. I was like, damn, this guy was like real dominant during his era. Because, I just don't know that. The 30s, the 40s, the 50s, 60s, 70s. Like those are my weak spots when it comes to baseball because I just wasn't alive. There wasn't the technology to really follow it.
You just offended Tom Amansky with your Fred McGriff comment. John, that's perfect.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Tom, but
we got a comment in the chat I want to go to. So John mentions all about a small hall, but maybe a little more than they've been letting in. So John, are you referencing like the steroid users who aren't getting in, or do you think that in general there should be more players getting elected each year than there currently are? I'm just curious if you're thinking about the steroid guys in particular, or just a general comment about letting more people in. But I'm all for sharing the story of baseball, getting, sharing all the history. I mean, maybe everybody's name appears in that museum somewhere. Maybe it's like you share all the major leaguers or something like that, and make it some sort of like, almost like you do with like a veterans memorial. Like you kind of memorialize all the guys that played. Like making it to the major leagues is a big friggin' deal.
Absolutely.
So very few people get there. Like maybe you find a way to like memorialize all the guys that played, but only the elite few actually get in the hall. And that is where the Willie Mays, the Barry Bonds, the Ken Griffey Jr., like those guys that changed the game. And I would actually argue there's got to be like an impact component to it. Like maybe it's less about stats, more about like how you change the game. Like a great example is Pedro Martinez. Statistically, he doesn't like overwhelm you. I mean, his numbers are great. 219 in the 100, a boatload of strikeouts, like 219 wins in the Hall of Fame. Like doesn't like jump off the page at you. But when Pedro was, for the period of time Pedro pitched, he changed the game
during the steroid era when everyone was hitting.
Exactly. Like he was pitching against guys that were roided up with HGH to help them heal, to stay fresh. And yet he was blowing guys away like it was his job. So like for me, it's like the impact he had on the game is sometimes bigger than the stats.
Yes.
And that's where I think that the voters need to stop looking at like the magic numbers that automatically get you in and say like, are you somebody that had an impact on the game? Did you change the game in some way? Are you somebody that like other teams worried about or talked about? And we talked about this on the show a bunch of times. I think Sean mentioned it. Like it should be your peers to decide that. It shouldn't be a bunch of friggin' writers.
Yep.
Like your peers should be like, yeah, that dude like killed us. He was so good. He did this, he did that. Like we game planned for him. Like it should be guys that know what they're talking about that actually make these selections.
Yeah, 1,000% agree. I just think the hall is kind of a joke to me until those guys get in, because you let in Bud Selig and you have arguably let in some other steroid guys. Like, yeah, maybe not publicized steroid guys, but you have Jeff Bagwell, you have Pudge Rodriguez. Like, I love Pudge Rodriguez. I love him. But those guys are borderline steroid. Like, you have to think that almost every guy that played during that era used steroids at some point. Correct? I mean,
you have to assume. You can't think for a minute that anybody in that era didn't, because you don't know. And the testing you had was done too late. It was highly inconclusive. The Mitchell report was a joke. I mean, I've read that thing several times. The Mitchell report was kind of a joke. Half of it was friggin' hearsay. So yeah, I mean, the hard part is, and John's right, the steroid guys, they cheated. Like they
Yeah,
completely cheated. But but so did everybody else.
right.
Like so to me, it's either you eliminate the whole era and say none of you guys get in, period, end of story, or you just accept it for what it was. It was a period in time where that was happening. Because let's go back to the 80s and they're all on amphetamines. Let's go back to the 70s when they're all on coke. Like there's always been stuff. There's always been something they did to get an edge. Whether it was the greenies, the amphetamines for the burst of energy, whether it was cocaine that they did in their spare time to chill out and relax and heal. Like there was always something. Like these guys are always finding an edge.
Right.
So yes, did they cheat? Absolutely, but they were one of many who cheated. So it's either all or nothing. You can't cherry pick. And the fact that Barry Bonds and A-Rod and Clemens and these guys aren't in is a tragedy. It really is.
It's an absolute joke. I've said this the last couple times this has come up, but your career home run leader, not in the Hall of Fame. The guy with the most career hits, not in the Hall of Fame. The guy with the most career Cy Youngs, not in the Hall of Fame.
It was a joke.
What? Absolutely nuts.
And yet guys from that era who maybe did, maybe didn't, we're not sure, but we're suspected, are in. I think you have to take it for what it is. It was a period in baseball where stuff was happening. Bud Selig is in there. He watched it all happen on his watch. You have to just let it be. Did they cheat? 100%. Were there rules in place to stop them? At the time, no. There weren't.
No.
Like they weren't necessarily cheating because there weren't rules for it. They added rules after the fact and et cetera, et cetera. But you either have to strike it all or just accept it for what it was. And I think baseball has to accept it for what it was. Not having these guys in the Hall of Fame is a joke and devalues devalues the Hall of Fame to not have some of your best players in it.
Yeah. I'm with you.
And the other point John made is like, even if you take Alex Rodriguez, Roger Clemens, and Barry Bonds, if you take all the steroid years off the resumes, they're still Hall of Famers.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like, what the hell are we talking about? Like, really, what are we talking about?
Yeah. So I will bring this one up, John. We do have a very close source to the Red Sox. I won't say his name, but he said it never happened. I know that there's stuff out there, but we know somebody that's very close. I mean, very, very close, like day in, day out operations that would know if he was
in the clubhouse, knows what these guys were doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know that there's stories out there, but I don't think that he ever did.
And Manny Ramirez, there's questions about what he did and when he did it.
Right.
Yeah, John, we agree. We need a Ken Burns documentary that rips apart the steroid era. Like somebody has to go and take the time to do the behind the scenes, get the interviews. They did the one on Barry Bonds, the whole Balco thing, and Barry Bonds took it. There's damning evidence that shows that it was given to him and actually it was actually injected into him and given to him. His name's on receipts. There's vials that they found. Like he clearly did it. Hands down, Barry Bonds was a steroid user. The documentary proved it. And he's never really denied it. He's kind of danced around it.
Right.
Steroid user, 100%. Sammy Sosa came out the other day and basically apologized to the Cubs and said, yeah, I did it. But will you please let me back in?
Yeah.
These guys all did it. There's no doubt about it, but we just have to get over that and either decide to keep them all out or let them all in.
Yeah. And I was all for keeping them all out until you let the commissioner in.
Yeah.
Once you let the commissioner in, it's the floodgates should have opened. And the fact that these guys aren't getting in is a travesty at this point. It's
not only that, not only did they let him in, they praised him for saving baseball.
Yeah.
Like throw up all over the place. Yeah. And John, you're right. Bonds cheated and he was a jerk that nobody liked. 100%.
And that's what I say about the Hall of Fame all the time. I hate it, but it's boys club. It's gentlemen's club. That's all it is. Like it's if you're likable and you put up decent numbers, you're in the Hall of Fame. And that's not how it should be. It should be, we've said it before, even when Sean was on here, football does it right. They sit down in a huge conference room, and it's coaches, it's ex-players, it's GMs, it's front office guys, it's league representatives, and they bring the guys' names up one at a time, and then they go around the table, and they're like, all right, Harrison Smith, Hall of Famer. And it's like,
Obviously.
yes, no, yes. Majority wins, boom, they're in. Like, it shouldn't be gentlemen's club. It should be your on-field performance.
Well,
I mean, short of murdering somebody, it should be your on-field performance.
Well, and then how some of these guys aren't unanimous. Like, how did you not vote for Ken Griffey Jr.?
Yeah.
Like, whoever didn't vote for Ken Griffey Jr. should lose their credential.
Yep.
Because there's no, and we've said it many times. I would love when players get voted in, the guys that didn't vote for them to explain why they didn't vote for them. If 75% or more of your peer group says they're in, why didn't you vote for them? I'd love to hear the reasons.
Right.
Because I bet a lot of them are stupid.
Yep.
It was, he told me to screw off in Cincinnati one time. Okay, toughen up. You're a beat writer. I would love to hear the reasons. And the one guy who didn't vote for Junior, why not?
Yeah. I know. That's what I mean.
OJ is in.
You're right. OJ's in. Ray Lewis is in, although he didn't kill anybody.
Ray Lewis murdered people on and off the field.
Yeah, facts. But you're right. But they do it right because it's all on the field product, and that's it. They don't take anything else into consideration, and I hate that about the Hall. But
and I think that's the one big difference with the MLB Hall versus other halls is that whole character clause thing. I mean, look, if you dug into everybody's background in the Hall of Fame, you're going to find skeletons in the closet. You're going to find them. There are bodies buried that we don't know about, and it is what it is. But keeping a guy to the Hall because you don't like him or because he was mean to you one time or because Ted Williams was a jerk. And there are people that didn't want to see him in the Hall of Fame because he was a jerk. You guys need to get over yourselves as writers. You're not the show. Those guys are.
Yeah.
Shut up. Cast your vote.
Yeah. I agree. Ichiro should be unanimous.
Oh, totally.
And if he's not, they need to revisit the voting process.
Again, if you didn't vote for him, you should have to explain why.
Because this is not the MLB Hall of Fame. This is the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Baseball Hall of Fame.
Fair, good point.
And putting 4,000 career hits not unanimous in the Hall is a joke, which leads us into our last one perfectly.
What a segue.
What a segue. Boom.
John, you jumped ahead on us.
You have to choose. His lifetime ban is officially over. Is Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame or is Pete Rose out of the Hall of Fame?
I've been adamant since reading his book, My Prison Without Bars. He should be in the Hall of Fame. To me, Pete Rose is a Hall of Famer. I don't care that he bet on baseball. I don't care that he's a dirtbag. I don't care that he surrounded himself with terrible people. There is nobody who played the game harder, played the game the right way, had more hits, and also had more impact. Guys like Mike Schmidt, who literally attribute their success to, or attribute getting better to being around him. There are so many players. I mean, Joe Morgan was fighting with baseball to get him in. Mike Schmidt was fighting with baseball to get him in. These are very well-respected people in the game that were standing behind him. Is he a dirtbag? 1,000%. 1,000%. He was a tough kid from Cincinnati with a tough upbringing. He did bad things. He surrounded himself with bad people, but on the field, there's no player who better demonstrates how baseball should be played than Pete Rose. He's a Hall of Famer. The lifetime ban is stupid. He should be in the Hall of Fame. And if they do not put him in the Hall of Fame, stat, it'll be a tragedy. And the biggest tragedy is the fact that he had to die to get in.
Yeah.
Baseball screwed this up so badly. So badly. They
did. And I mean, I did watch the documentary on it. I thought it was very well done.
It was good.
And, one episode I was like, yep, he's in the Hall of Fame for sure. Next episode, I was like, well, maybe not. And then the third episode, I'm like, oh, definitely in. Fourth episode, I'm like, nope, definitely out. Like
it was a roller coaster ride.
It really was. It was really well done. But I'm just gonna go back to what I said earlier. The all-time hit king in your sport, the guy, no one has had more base hits in their career than this dude, and he's not in. It was a lifetime ban. The lifetime is over. He should be in. End of story. He should have been in before his life was over. It's absolutely criminal what they did to this dude.
It's just wrong.
What he did was wrong. Yes, it was. It was wrong. He shouldn't have done what he did. But he paid his price. He did his time.
Yeah, and John, this is a fair point. He did not do the bare minimum to prove he was remorseful. He gave a bunch of empty apologies. He wrote some letters, and you're right. He did not do the bare minimum to be remorseful. But I think the matter of the fact is he wasn't remorseful. He doesn't believe what he did was wrong. And I think there's a lot of us that are on the fence about whether or not what he did was wrong. Like, I don't view him betting on games as a huge problem. Because as a manager, what was he doing to throw games? And when you look at the track record he had, like, there's nothing in what he did, and nobody's been able to prove to me that he actually changed the outcome of games to fix it, to try to fix the bets. And maybe he did, but there's no proof to show that he actually ever did that. Was he a dirtbag? Yes. Did he have a gambling addiction? 100%. Was he a good guy off the field? Not a single chance that he was. But on the field, there was nobody who better exemplified baseball than this guy.
I now turn to the 2017 Astros, right? Because AJ Hinch, Alex Cora, that whole team banging on trash cans to relay signals from a TV is flat changing outcomes of games.
Yep.
Like, underneath everybody's noses, they're changing the outcomes of games. They both 1 year suspension and are both managing. They both have a job in MLB.
Which is a joke.
I agree. As good as both of them are, it's an absolute joke that they're still in the game and you're sitting on a lifetime ban for this guy. Like, what an absolute slap in the face. Like, you've already made him serve his time, and then he sees this go down, and they get a 1 year suspension, and they're back, and they have their jobs.
I'm a Red Sox fan. I have no respect for Alex Cora, and I feel like he should have been banned for life. And he's the manager of my team, and I have no respect for him. And I really think he should not be in baseball.
No, he shouldn't.
Because what they did directly impacted the outcome of games. They robbed teams of wins. They changed the outcome of the season. They changed the winner of the World Series. To me, that is far worse than placing some bets on baseball that it looks like you didn't actually do anything to try to fix the outcome of the game.
Right.
Like, I'm so over the Pete Rose thing. Baseball botched it. Every commissioner after didn't have the stones to deal with it. Was Pete Rose remorseful? No. And honestly, he was never going to be remorseful because he doesn't think what he did was wrong. And most people, and the documentary showed this, most people don't think what he did was wrong. They're like, whatever.
Right.
Greatest hitter of all time. Put him in the Hall of Fame.
And I think we're starting to see a generational divide, I think, a little bit here, because, we didn't really get to see Pete Rose play.
No.
And people of his era, a lot of them say, no, he was a terrible man. What he did, it was not acceptable. Like, he's just completely out. Like, and you can't change their view on it. Like, that's that. Where, like, our generation and younger, we're just like, okay, like, why isn't he in? This doesn't make sense. And, like, you can't be having Major League Baseball games being sponsored by DraftKings and FanDuel.
I know.
And then saying that gambling's bad. Like, you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. That's not okay.
No, and MLB is inviting the Fox into the hen house right now by having these gambling partnerships. This is going to become a bigger problem.
Yeah.
And I think MLB very cleanly swept the Shohei thing under the rug. I don't think Shohei's hands are clean there. but they made it disappear because he's selling a bunch of merchandise and tickets. You can talk about the eBay picture.
Yes, I
Do
sent
it. Go for it.
I sent Harrison an Instagram picture of Ipe wearing a Christmas sweater that said Shohei did it from shoulder to shoulder. It's the best. I kind of want that holiday sweater. I hope it goes up on eBay soon. But yeah, absolutely amazing. I'm with you,
John. 100%. What the 1919 White Sox did and what the Houston Astros did, not much different.
No.
The only difference is the White Sox tried to lose because they were pissed at the owner, whereas the Astros cheated to actually win, give themselves the advantage to win games. But I mean, Pete Rose, 17-time All-Star, an MVP, Rookie of the Year, 3 World Series championships, a Silver Slugger, 3 batting titles, World Series MVP, 2-time Gold Glove. Oh yeah, and he won a humanitarian Roberto Clemente Award.
Oh.
What are we doing here, baseball?
Yeah. Yeah.
The only guy from the whole Houston Astros thing that's gotten screwed from it is Carlos Beltran. He's basically been blacklisted in baseball.
Yep.
Alex Cora still managing. AJ Hinch still managing. Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve still playing. Carlos Beltran got absolutely branded a cheater and won't get into the Hall of Fame, which, his candidacy is questionable. But he's the only guy that had any fallout.
Yeah. I did see this point too,
Yeah.
John, about the football players and DraftKings and all that stuff. But
yeah. MLB is now in bed with the gambling places, and they need to make this right. They need to come clean and fix it. There's no world where Pete Rose should be out of the Hall of Fame.
No, I agree.
But I don't think the existing MLB front office has the cojones to touch this. Manfred will not let that be his legacy.
No.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. DraftKings should actually start the campaign to get Pete in the Hall.
That's not a bad idea. I would almost put Pete Rose in the Hall before I start letting the steroid guys in. Right? He has to be the first one in. Correct?
They need to put him in ASAP. Like, there should be like an express lane to put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. He's dead. Like, it's over. MLB, you won. Good for you. You can go to bed tonight feeling like you won this battle. All of you previous commissioners who didn't have the stones to deal with this situation. You won. So put him in the Hall. He never got to, you never let the man enjoy the fruits of his labor and all the things he brought to the game. You win.
So if they do make him eligible, does he just go on the ballot like he just got what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you're 6 years after, like he just became eligible for the list.
If that ban goes away, he goes on the ballot as a first timer because this would be the first time he's eligible.
Okay.
So he's been retired more than 6 years.
Right.
And once the ban's lifted, he would drop onto the ballot.
Right. And then
what's interesting though is, would the writers vote for him, or would they all be scared to death to do it?
I don't think they would vote for him. He wouldn't get the percentage needed to carry on to the next year, and he'd drop off.
And then the Veterans Committee would have to come in and fix it 10 years later.
Yep.
It's insane.
Yeah. So we're still 20 years out before he gets in.
Yeah.
If he even.
Yeah, it'll be probably 2035 before he's got a real shot to get in. Because
it's an absolute joke.
Because these writers don't have the stones to deal with it. MLB doesn't have the stones to deal with it. Nobody wants to deal with it. Nobody wants to make it right.
As much as like this is such a polarizing topic, like I almost am done. You're right.
The writers are grudge carrying punks. And another point, nobody will ever touch his records. They won't.
No.
Games played, at bats, hits, like nobody plays that long. I mean, Pete Rose played for 24 seasons. Played in 3,562 games. Yeah. I mean, no shot. Nobody will outlast that guy.
No. I just talking about the Hall is like, I don't even know how to say this, but like, I'm almost tired of it because it's such a joke. right? I mean, there's no parameters to it anymore. It's just like, oh, we like this guy, he's in.
Yeah.
We don't like this guy, he's out.
Well,
Like,
and they've brought it on themselves too by being wildly inconsistent and having like these glaring holes like Pete Rose, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, A-Rod, Manny, Ortiz. Like you got all these like glaring holes in the Hall of Fame, and like everybody's just pretending like it's not happening, except for the fans who are like, "What the hell are you idiots doing?" Like make this make sense. Like make the Hall of Fame whole.
yeah. So yeah, that would be awesome. Fan vote per year. I mean, they would never do that. They would never relinquish any type of control to the fans. But
I would love to see baseball do like a special Veterans Committee exemption vote for Pete Rose. Like, hey, ban is lifted. It's in your hands, Veterans Committee. You decide if he goes in.
yeah,
Because putting him on the ballot makes no sense now. Like
mm-mm.
most of these writers never covered him. They never saw him play. Like they don't know anything more than we do about him, other than the videos they've watched. I mean, Pete Rose retired when we were in diapers.
Right.
I never saw him play.
Yeah.
And most of your writers are probably, they probably saw part of his career, didn't see all of it.
Yeah.
Or none of it if they're even younger. I mean,
Yeah, right.
I think you need to like exempt him from the ballot and hand him to the Veterans Committee and say, "Hey, you guys pick. You're his peers. What do you think?"
Yeah, I agree fully.
Because these
on
writers
that.
will screw it up.
Yeah. Or like I said, it's going to end up in the Veterans Committee anyways. Like he won't.
Let's cut to the chase. Let's cut 10 years off this process and just put it where it's going to end up.
Yeah. Well, I don't even think he stays on the ballot for the 10 years. Like I said, he won't get the percentage. What is it? You have to be on the ballot for 2 years, and if you don't, or 3 years, if you don't get the percentage, and you drop off.
Yeah, I forgot what the cutoff is, but if it's like less than like, is it 40%? You just fall off the ballot.
I think so. That sounds about right. It's 40 or 50%, I think, by year 3 or something like that.
Yeah. So he'd be on the ballot for a little while, then fall off.
Yeah. So just cut that BS out anyways, and just hand it to the committee. I'm with you on that. But well, and that's a very fair point, John. Common sense doesn't even need a vote. Just put them in. It's only 5% or better. For some reason, I thought it was a higher percentage as the years went on.
I think it changed as the years go on, but John might be right.
Or 15.
Yeah, we'll have to look it up. I forget what the percentage is, but there's a cutoff, and at some point they just drop you off.
Yeah.
Let's just cut to the chase. The writers aren't going to want to touch this. They don't have the stones to deal with it. Most of those guys didn't see much of his career, if any of his career. So let's hand it to the Veterans Committee and let those guys decide. You guys played the game. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
it's a shame that Joe Morgan passed because he was one of the loudest.
Yeah.
He was deep into the Hall of Fame and was one of the loudest supporters of him.
Yeah, he was like a vice chair or something like that for the players, right? Or something.
He was an insider.
Yeah.
And I would like to believe that some of those players that were kind of carrying that mantle, like Mike Schmidt, will come back out and be like, "Hey, MLB, make this right. Like, you won this stupid game you played. Now let's make it right."
Yeah. And I mean, I go back to the documentary saying that like the lifetime ban from MLB and the Baseball Hall of Fame are two separate entities, which is what Manfred said.
The Hall of Fame is not controlled by MLB.
It's a fair point that he brought up. And like when he said it, I was like, all right, like that does make sense, right? Because it's the Baseball Hall of Fame. It's not the MLB Hall of Fame.
Right.
So Manfred's saying, if I give him, I take away the lifetime ban, that has nothing to do with the Hall of Fame. All that's doing is protecting Major League Baseball. That's all I'm doing with the lifetime ban. So me lifting it doesn't do anything for the Hall of Fame. But
well, and honestly, like even the lifetime ban didn't matter to the Hall of Fame until they got scared and changed their rules to say anybody with a lifetime ban from MLB didn't qualify. Before that, he could have been inducted into the Hall of Fame with a lifetime ban from MLB because the two weren't connected. The Hall of Fame attempted to connect them. And John is right. In the words of Elsa, let it go. Let it go.
Right.
The league won their battle. Pete Rose died before he got honored, which is what MLB apparently wanted, as wrong as that is. Let's just make it right and move on.
Absolutely. Agree. All right. Well, do you have anything else to add before we take off for the week?
Boy, that was those this or that's are fun to get into the conversations and debates.
Yeah, thanks for adding into those guys. Like, I mean, that's what makes the show fun for us is when we get your point of view too. So, like, keep coming back. I think we're gonna throw a few in there every week because I love the conversation, the back and forth that we have with you guys when we put
All
them
right.
in there.
So Nick, I got we can't go off air until we bring this up.
Uh-oh.
Cam Newton. So Cam Newton makes the comment this week that he believes the WNBA is going to surpass baseball in 20 years because baseball is a dying sport, although revenue's grown for like 5 straight years. What's your take? Is the MLB at risk of being leapfrogged by the WNBA?
I don't know if leapfrog, whatever leapfrog,
being surpassed.
Thank you. I don't know if I would use that terminology. I do think baseball is in trouble if these contracts keep blowing up like they are. Because like you said, that bubble's going to burst and the WNBA is growing exponentially with the talent coming out of college. So there is a time where if that MLB bubble bursts and the WNBA keeps growing, it could. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know, and like I don't want to sound like a sexist, but I don't think the WNBA would ever get past any of the 4 major sports, men's sports.
Yeah.
Like I'm
is it Cam Newton shrooms?
It's I mean, and there's that fact that, you know, Cam Newton's the one that said that. So
I mean, first of all, consider your source. It's Cam Newton. Like,
right.
That's the same guy who said he's the best quarterback in football, but couldn't throw a pass, couldn't complete a 5-yard pass, kept throwing at the feet of people.
It's brutal. So, I mean, I don't know. I think it all depends on if the WNBA keeps exponentially growing like it has been with Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, like the stars coming up are bringing a lot of attention to the WNBA. And if that money bubble bursts for the MLB at the quote unquote right time, we could see a little bit of competition there. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I mean, first of all, it's Cam Newton. So I immediately like,
right.
Okay, cool. Like, thanks for your opinion, Cam. I don't think anybody asked for it or cares about it, but I appreciate it. So first of all, the source to me is kind of funny. But secondly, like baseball is was it 10.8 billion in 2023 in terms of overall revenue. It's the biggest sport out there. Is the WNBA ever going to surpass baseball? Not a chance in hell. And not to be sexist, but like women's basketball is never going to top America's pastime. But I agree. Baseball has some headwinds and some problems in front of it. Like they have to fix this or you run the risk of turning fans away. And not fans of the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Mets, but like fans of the Rockies and the Twins and the Mariners and the Angels and the all those, you know, kind of middle of the tier down teams that feel like they're never going to compete. You run the risk of alienating those fans because they're just not going to be interested. Like they see no chance their team's ever going to win. So what the hell's the point in watching? That's where baseball's got trouble. I think Major League Baseball overall is still going to remain crazy strong because it's a growing league. It's America's pastime. It's now pulling in an international market. They're going to get the TV rights fixed. They're going to add expansion. Like the WNBA is never going to sniff. You know, they'll be lucky to do in a year what MLB does in a month. So like, no, they're never going to approach MLB, but MLB does have problems they need to fix. Otherwise, they do run the risk of beginning to push fans away. And that I think is starting to happen. I think your lower end of the market teams are like, we got no shot. What the hell's the point?
Right. I think that was like overall my point was kind of, you just said it a lot more eloquently than I did, but that we've talked about it the last few weeks, that money bubble is going to burst and those lower market teams are going to be like, I don't know why we're doing this anymore. So
yeah. So John, to your point about TV contracts, MLB's lined up all the TV contracts to expire in 2028. So they can actually take all the TV back to the main office and bid it out as one package. And that would allow them to do MLB TV in a bigger way with fewer blackouts or no blackouts. Probably not no blackouts because you still have Nesson and yes, but far fewer blackouts, and national contracts with bigger carriers. So you're not on, Fox Sports 1 in Arizona like you're on ESPN. So the TV thing they're going to fix. The salary cap we've been talking about for the last month or two, like, are they going to address that in the CBA coming up? Are they going to add in a salary floor, a salary cap? Like, are they going to move away from luxury tax to a hard cap? Was it 2026, Nick, the CBA ends?
Yep. Yeah, it expires in 2026.
I would not be shocked if we have a prolonged negotiation or even a work stoppage going into the 2027 season, because you're going to have a large group of owners that are pissed and want things to get fixed.
Yeah. And I think the issue with the salary cap, I don't know if we'll ever see a salary cap. I don't know if the CBA will ever allow it. I think what they'll attack is the deferred money as kind of like a mediation there. Being like, okay, fine. If you're not going to put in a cap, you guys have to stop deferring money. So the luxury tax threshold actually hurts your team.
Yeah, I actually think the luxury tax is a better mechanism. So two things. One, I think they need to count the contracts what they're worth. Ohtani signed 10 years, $700 million. It's $70 million a year. Whether you pay him $1 today and all of it in 20 years, you should just amortize the contract over the term. You signed a 10-year, $700 million deal at $70 million a season against the luxury tax, period.
Yep.
And then you can defer whatever the hell you want. Doesn't matter. You signing bonuses bonuses get factored in that way. Deferred money gets factored in that way. It all gets factored in that way. Make the math to the luxury tax easier. Two, I think the luxury tax is better than the salary cap because you want to spend more, great, but you're going to pay, and that money goes in the revenue share pool, which actually increases the revenue for all the other owners, which allows them to pay more. So in my mind, the luxury tax is a better mechanism because the teams that want to spend more can, but they pay a premium for that then helps the lower end teams make more money to spend more money. So in a way, you're kind of floating all the payroll up and helping to subsidize the lower end of the league on those teams' dime, which I think is a win overall for baseball. The hard cap just shuts you down.
Yeah. Now, when the deferred payments kick in, that also doesn't count towards the cap when they pay it, right?
The which one?
Deferred money. So I start paying Shohei on year 11. It doesn't count towards the cap.
It's not going to luxury tax. No, it was factored into the math when he was active. So right now, Shohei's luxury tax hit each year is 46 point something million, because that's basically the present value of money over the contract term, including deferrals. So it's 10 years, 700 million, which is 70 million per year average annual value. However, because it's a 20-year payment term, because it's deferred out,
cuts it in half.
It basically works out to be $46 million a year because that's all the present value of that deferred money is.
Right. Crazy. Absolutely nuts. Yeah, I mean, they do have to, I think, fine tune it a little bit for sure. And I mean, we talked about it last week with the A's, like they haven't gotten their full revenue share because they hadn't spent enough money to get their revenue share. And now they were almost in a grievance with the MLB because they hadn't been spending money. So now they're like, oh, well, now we got to sign all these contracts. So we get our full revenue share now, or we were going to have more problems. So there sort of is a floor in place. It's just not a hard floor.
Yeah, it's kind of like an incentive base for it to say, hey, like if you spend at least this much money, we'll give you all these other perks and benefits. And that's why I think the luxury tax is better. The teams that want to spend more, great. You want to spend $400 million? Well, now it's going to cost you $500 million because we're going to pay $100 million, and we're going to give your $100 million to all your competitors.
Right.
We're going to spread the love around the league, so they can then now compete with you for the same free agents. I actually think that's the better way to do it because it makes it more competitive. But ultimately, baseball's got a lot of decisions to make about how they're going to handle the deferred money, the luxury tax calculation, what the luxury tax threshold is. Do they put a cap in? Do they put a floor in? What's the revenue share formula? Making sure they get the TV contract piece right, because that could be a huge boost to baseball. There's a lot. They got a lot to deal with in the next 3 or 4 years. That if they do it right, could blow up and have massive benefits to MLB. If they screw it up, it could be one of the biggest mistakes they ever make
Yeah.
and set the league back.
Yeah. You got 2 MLB teams without a home. You're looking to expand. Like it's all just a mess. But we're still a couple years out before we start talking about that lockout. But I think you're right. I think it's going to be a hefty one. It's going to be a lengthy one for sure. But yeah. Well, and this, you're not wrong here. Loopholes on loopholes. Eventually someone has to pay, and it will be us. You're 1,000%
Well,
right.
And I think if I'm MLB, that's what I'm afraid of is, what is it going to cost for a family to go to a baseball game? Like at what point, again, back to the point of at what point do I push fans away? At what point are people going to say, I'm not spending $200 for a bleacher seat and $15 for a hot dog.
Yeah.
Like at some point people are going to say enough's enough. We're out. Like we're not going to games anymore.
Right.
And there is a sweet spot. Like they can probably raise ticket prices to a certain level across the league before attendance starts to dip. But I mean, the Dodgers just wrote $100 million luxury tax check. Over 81 games. That's a lot of money to recoup. It's like $1.25 million a game you got to make back.
Yeah. It's wild.
That's not jump change.
No.
And you got to make $1.25 million over 33,000 seats or 35. How many they have? No, they've got a lot of seats in shop. Yeah, it's like 47,000.
Yeah, they got 50, I think.
But close, but you got to make $1.25 million per game over 50,000 seats. How are you going to squeeze that money out of each seat? Like there's no way that everybody's like, well, these owners are just so rich, they're just going to put their own money in. To a certain point, they will, but they didn't buy these teams to paint a red cross on the side and do it for charity.
Right.
They're going to make friggin' money.
Yeah.
One way or another.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Anything else this evening?
That's it. This was a good one.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun, guys. Thanks again for chiming in. But before you go, make sure you follow and like us on Facebook. You can follow on Instagram, follow on Rumble, subscribe on YouTube. You can listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. We will be back on next Monday at 8 p.m. I hope everyone has a safe and happy new year. We'll see y'all in 2025.
Awesome. See you.